Podcast City Network.
Hey guys, this is Chris, and we are back for another exciting episode of Final Score live here on Facebook Live, episode 40. I think it's going to be a good one. I'm excited, even though we're turning 40.
The big 4-0.
The big 4-0. Ugh. I don't know. That's a scary number.
It's a little bit scary.
But you know what? As the number gets bigger, hopefully the better we get, and that's what we always try to do is bring the very, very best. But to do so, we have to know how we're doing. So make sure that you go onto all of our social media outlets at PCN Final Score on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and especially on Facebook, because on Facebook, you can go on and leave us that nice little rating. Make sure to give us that 5.0 rating and tell us some great things that we're doing or not doing, as the case may be. That way we can try and improve the show the best that we can. And we will try to bring good stuff, don't we?
Absolutely. We always try to bring the best that we can each and every week. And we take those suggestions from you, the fans, as well as, you know, of course, the big things that happen throughout the week. But like I said, the best thing that we can do is find out how we're doing. And the best way to find that out is for you to tell us.
That's
so let us know. Drop us a line, send us an email, send us a DM. Let us know how we're doing.
And you know I got to do it. There it is. Right there. Right there. Just check it out.
Up there,
at
right?
PCN Final Score. Yeah, you're actually in the good direction,
right
sir.
there.
You got it. See, this is TV magic. I love it. I love it. I love it. But also to make sure you can keep up on all the great episodes we put out and you can hear our lovely voices because we know you love hearing it. All you have to do is go onto our myriad of different content platforms, including Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, Stitcher, TuneIn, and of course, Google Play Music. Get to use my arrows again. Just search keyword Final Score and check us out. Give us a like, give us a follow. Let us know how we're doing.
We were always told we have the best faces for radio.
Wait a minute.
Wait a second.
That doesn't work. Either way, though, you know what does work? The amazingness known as college football, because there's been so many great games going on, and now we are at the end of the season. So now we're going to be at our college football weekly pick'em 2019 season review. It's going to be crazy because I'm very shocked with how things turned out. Utterly shocked, sir.
I'm not.
Well, it doesn't take anything.
But what I am actually very shocked about for us is not the fact that we pick all 16 of the games that we pick each and every week, being that they are not necessarily, the easy Clemson versus Wofford type games. We try to pick games that are in the they're very close with spreads. Maybe they're big time matchups.
Definitely.
All those types of games. So it makes it a little bit more difficult for us, which is half the fun because,
of course,
we're both shooting well over 60% here for the season.
So much so my wife is going to let me bet on it next year. Maybe. I don't know. If she says yes.
Good luck with that.
But either way, though, we have to get through what is our last week, which actually is this week. A lot of people think, the conference games, end up marking the end. It does not. There's always one more game. And that's the beauty of Army-Navy. But before we get to Army-Navy, we have to recap all these crazy conference championship games that we had. A lot of surprises, some not so surprising, but crazy nonetheless. I think it's going to be good stuff.
Yeah, starting off on last Friday, we had the number 6 Utah and number 14 Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game. Both of us picking Utah, and realistically, the heart, the head says Utah, but the heart says you should have picked Oregon, and that's exactly what happened. Oregon won this game from the get-go. It looked like Utah wasn't even an afterthought in this game.
Yeah, definitely. It doesn't seem like they were able to hang whatsoever. They were able to kind of get a little bit of a surge back in the third quarter, but Oregon just reclamped down and showed why they are now the Pac-12 champions. In our Saturday slate of games, though, we had Baylor taking on Oklahoma, both 11-1, going into the Big 12 title game down there in Dallas, and it was an exciting game, just like the first time around. Oklahoma ended up taking it 30-23 in overtime.
In the MACtion also on Saturday afternoon. Miami, Ohio 7-5 taking on Central Michigan at 8-4, and both of us taking Central Michigan here just because of the big turnaround season they have.
Oh yeah,
Jim McElwain up there after he's been, we're like, extradited and removed from the SEC, going up to Central Michigan, really turning around their program in a very short time, but they end up falling to Miami, Ohio, 26-21 in the MAC title game.
Yeah, and look at Sun Belt, though. We had Louisiana Lafayette taking on ranked Appalachian State, who's been having a phenomenal year. And this one, we had no doubt, both of us taking Appalachian State, and Appalachian State did get the job done, winning the Sun Belt title 45-38.
Conference USA Championship game, UAB versus FAU. This is the second time in 3 years that FAU has been in the Conference USA Championship game. Just a little bit of a testament to what Lane Kiffin's been doing there. They end up dominating this game 49-6, win the Conference USA Championship game, get themselves a nice bowl game, and Lane Kiffin's got a new job.
That's right. He definitely does have a new job, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But in our AAC Championship game, we had number 20 Cincinnati traveling on down to Memphis to take on number 17 Memphis. And this game we thought was going to be exciting. Memphis ended up being able to pull away a little bit early. Cincinnati tried to come back, but it just was too little, too late. Memphis took this one 29-24.
In the SEC Championship game on Saturday, we had number 4 Georgia at 11-1 taking on number 2 LSU, undefeated LSU, arguably the top team in the country.
Oh, yes.
And LSU dominates this game 37-10. Joe Burrow dominates yet again. Just Ed Orgeron's got that team going. Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator, has his offense rolling, and they are on a good swing of momentum leading into the college football playoff.
Yeah, absolutely insane. And in our Mountain West Championship game, we had Hawaii traveling up to Idaho on the blue turf to take on number 19 Boise State. And Boise State did not disappoint, taking this one 31-10 and really just shellacking Hawaii and still showing they're the class of the Mountain West.
ACC Championship game, Clemson. That's it. That's all you need to know.
That's really all you need to know.
It was Clemson over Virginia. If there was any question that Virginia would have a chance in this game,
completely
that
blew them
was
out.
all but diminished by the second quarter. That's how dominant Clemson is. And say what you will, I myself have been on this. I wouldn't say I've been on the hate train for Clemson this year, but they're not necessarily the team they were last year, but they were struggling because they're trying to put too much on Trevor Lawrence. They got back to their roots. They got back to the dominating defense that they had. Rely on that defense. Rely on that run game. Don't make Trevor Lawrence do too much. Now, guess what? They are the scariest team in college football right now.
Absolutely the scariest team. They ended up taking this one by a tremendous 62-17 margin. I don't think Dabo Swinney has to do any more politicking to be able to make sure Clemson's going to make it. I think that just proved everything we needed to know about Clemson.
I love that he does the us against the world thing every single year.
Every year.
I mean, some of his points are valid, being that there's a ton of SEC bias in the media, but
they're now on a 28-game winning streak.
But he uses that. I give him credit. He uses that to his advantage. And I mean, people are underestimating Clemson now that Clemson and Ohio State are matched up in the playoff. No one's giving Ohio State a chance. So this ought to be a fun playoff.
Speaking of Ohio State, number 1 Ohio State took on number 12 Wisconsin in our Big Ten championship game. Wisconsin got out to an early and surprising lead, looking very dominant in the first half. But just like their game earlier in the season ended up telling, Ohio State, second half team in this game, always ended up coming out, smacking Wisconsin back in the mouth, retaking the lead, and ended up taking the Big Ten championship 34-21. And man, it was an exciting weekend of conference championship games.
Absolutely. And then you take it right down to Selection Sunday. I guess college football's got to have that now too. You got to look at the matchups. You got Clemson and Ohio State and LSU and Oklahoma.
Yeah, definitely going to be exciting. As you see on your screen, if you're watching us live, the bracket down below, LSU, Oklahoma matched up. That is going to be a crazy game, but honestly, I don't think Oklahoma's going to have anything for LSU. That offense is just too nasty.
I would look at it. I would look at it from the other way. I think it's going to be a very exciting game because of Oklahoma's offense and what Jalen Hurts has been able to do. Lincoln Riley gets the best out of his offenses, and they actually have a surprisingly good defense, much better than the previous years in Oklahoma. So I think this is going to be a bit of a high-scoring game, but you got to look at the difference makers are going to be the defensive secondary at LSU, and that I think will be the key to why they would win.
definitely going to be exciting. So definitely have to check out that one. But in our other matchup, it's going to be just as exciting, I feel like, with Ohio State and Clemson. Ohio State, Urban Meyer is now gone, but still rolling to a 13-0 record behind the great arm of Justin Fields. The defense led by Chase Young, which a little bit of news with him that I'm going to touch on a little bit later. But Clemson looking just as dominant, like we said earlier, 28-game winning streak. Who ends up taking this? Who has the edge?
This is probably going to be one of the most, I would think, the most exciting game of the whole bowl season, just because of the fact not only is it a top tier matchup and you're playing for a chance to go to the national championship, both of these offenses light the world on fire. They've lit up every single team that they have played, and to that end, this is, Clemson's offense versus Ohio State's defense can be big. Clemson's defense is actually better statistically than they were last year, and you know how dominant they were last year with all of those NFL draft picks.
Yes.
So, I mean, this game, in my opinion, is way too close to call. I mean, you got to see who sits out the bowl games, and you got to see all that stuff before I make any kind of prediction on this game.
I mean, if you're in the playoff, do you even sit out? I mean, I know some guys that have those NFL prospects, but
well, most likely guys are not going to sit out, but you never know. Guys could get injured over the next couple weeks in practice. We're gonna wait. I'm gonna wait to make my prediction there.
So we'll definitely have a college football playoff bracket previewing the college football playoff here coming in the next week or so. So definitely make sure you keep an eye out for that. Definitely going to be exciting, and we can't wait. But there is today's game that we have to finish up our 2019 season of the College Football Weekly Pick'em, and that is none other than Army Navy neutral site game played at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. 3:00 start time today, and this one's always classic. And what I find funny is that the College Football Playoff Committee always tried to pressure Army Navy to move this game just because of ranking purposes, and Army Navy is just like, we don't care. We're the service academies,
right?
We defend America.
Absolutely. This game, Army obviously coming off, they had 11-win season last year. Much different outcome this year. They're sitting at 5-7 and matching up against the ranked number 23 Navy team sitting at 9-2. This game now, Army is trying to make their 4th straight win over Navy. But Navy is favored by 11 points here in this game. And over-unders at 40.5. Based on how these two teams played, here's a fun fact about this game before you make your prediction.
Oh, man, here we go.
7 of the 9 Army games in this last decade have been decided by a touchdown or less.
That's crazy. And
regardless of records, and you know, some of these years, Army's been really good, Navy hasn't been good. They flip-flop. Sometimes both have been good. But that's just a fun little fact before you make your pick.
Well, either way, no matter what the stats say, Navy is the better team, averaging almost 40 points a game, only letting up 24, have an amazing offense that's turning out well over 450 yards a game, but the defense is allowing almost 350 a game, so that is a little bit concerning. I think this is going to be a high-scoring affair because both defenses are letting up over 300, so they're going to be able to move the ball. I think this is going to end up coming down to the wire. I think they're going to go over that 40-point over-under that you have there. I think it's going to end up pushing towards 50, maybe even 60. Both these teams within 3, but no matter what, it's going to be Navy.
I'm going to take Navy in this game too. I think they've just been way too dominant in this on paper. They're just way too dominant on paper here. But of course, this is why you play the game.
This is true. This is very true.
So I'm going to take Navy straight up, but I'm going to take Army to cover that 11-point spread.
Definitely going to be interesting. So definitely make sure that you check out that game 3 p.m. today. And I tell you what, it's going to be exciting on CBS. Check it out. But we have a little bit of news that we need to touch on here in college football, most notably, and I don't even think we have this one written down at all, is Chase Young has made it known that he does not intend to enter the NFL draft and might return for his senior year.
So
not 100%.
That is not an official statement. So
not official, but
take that with a grain of salt.
Definitely something to look out for because you're talking about arguably could be the number 1 pick in the draft.
He's number 2. He's absolutely number 2.
Listen to this guy. Always for certain. Always absolute.
He's absolutely going to be number 2.
Are you a Sith, sir?
Am I a Sith?
Only Sith deal in absolutes.
No, I am.
Sorry, I've been getting ready for Star Wars 6 days away.
I'm a gray Jedi.
Are you?
Yes.
Right in between?
Right in between.
Well, I see the light, sir. That makes me a good man. Look at the green and blue. I represent the Jedi at all times.
Yeah, you need some sun too. You're like skin over there.
You calm down there, sir. Calm down.
He is in the mix for the number 1 pick of the draft. Definitely going top 5. I don't see him making out of the top 2. So he's probably just throwing this out there just because you always keep all your options open whenever you are a player and you have the option to go to the NFL. So at the end of the day, I don't think this is going to end up being much of news because he's going to come out of the draft. He's probably going to go top 3. So there's no reason for him to stay.
Yeah, because you can't really get much higher than that. So
yeah, you can't. You can't.
Why
all the
pass
money
up the
that you're
prospect?
leaving on the table for the potential to go back. You've already made the playoff this year. You're already in running for the Heisman. He obviously the awards we're about to cover. He's won a couple of those awards.
Absolutely.
There's nothing he's done that says he should stay.
And if Tua Tagovailoa taught us anything, injury is a very serious risk that you're going to run if you try to return. So I feel like cash in now, go to the NFL.
Who else recently did that in the last 10 years? Somebody else came back and then got hurt. Didn't Clowney get hurt?
Yeah.
Clowney came back, got hurt.
But he still got drafted.
I know at Michigan, Jake Butt came back for his senior year and got hurt.
Best name ever.
Yeah, great name.
And there's many notables, too, who decided to stay for their senior year and then just didn't have good years. One that I can really think off the top of my head was the quarterback from the University of Washington not too long ago. What can I think of? Jake Locker.
You're talking Locker, yeah.
Yeah. So it just really depends. You take that kind of risk of trying to return, but I can understand guys, have that devotion to their team, want to try and prove their stock. But I'm sorry, Chase Young, you have nothing else to prove. You did it, sir, and you're undefeated, Big Ten champ. Possibly could be even a national champion. So let's pump the brakes and look at the money here.
Yeah, like I said, this is just option for him. I highly doubt he's actually going to come back. But with that said, talking about some of the awards that he's already won, the college football awards were just a few days ago. So we're gonna rattle off these very quickly.
Oh yeah,
because there's a lot of them to go through.
So many awards.
Yeah, rattle off. LSU cleaned house. LSU really cleaned house. Whether it was offense, defense, coaching, everything. Starting at the very top, Coach of the Year, Ed Orgeron. Obviously, a very obvious choice for Coach of the Year.
Most definitely.
Burroughs Award, which is the best assistant coach, went to Joe Brady, the offensive mastermind for LSU's offense this year. Those right there tells you all you need to know about LSU.
Oh, yeah, definitely a solid coaching staff all the way through. But, however, they didn't take everything. So, the William V. Campbell Award for Academic Heisman went to Justin Herbert, quarterback of Oregon, who was an early Heisman hopeful to start the season. So, congrats to that young man.
Yeah, he's going to be a top prospect as well. Fun fact about the Academic Heisman. Western Michigan has won that award in the last few years.
Wasn't it at quarterback or something like that?
Yeah, our quarterback.
Who was that guy?
You talking about our quarterback?
Yeah.
Yeah, he won it. He won it a couple years ago. It was the year with we went to the Cotton Bowl. Had Corey Davis.
That's right.
Had Corey Davis, and then PJ Fleck went to Minnesota the next year.
Speaking of quarterbacks, you know who really cleaned up?
Joe Burrow.
That's right. Joe Burrow got the Maxwell Award for Player of the Year, Walter Camp Award for Player of the Year, and the Davey O'Brien Award for Best Quarterback. Absolutely murdering it, I feel like. And honestly, that's my Heisman pick. That's my Heisman.
That's your Heisman?
That's my Heisman.
I called it since week 3 that he should be the Heisman. He is. When you go into a hostile environment, yes, I know Texas didn't end up having the year that they did. At the time, they were a top 10 team. On the road, top 10 team, tough environment. To have the game that he had already from there, that kind of a game, it's a Heisman moment game. He cleaned house, absolutely. Going on to Doak Walker, the best running back. Jonathan Taylor from Wisconsin takes this award home. Very well deserved. I think, realistically, I think he kind of got it because of his name and his school. Because Chuba Hubbard from Oklahoma State had better stats on a just as good team.
But maybe they're looking more at the matchups that they went against. I think Wisconsin actually faced more ranked teams than Oklahoma State,
which is very true. Which is, when you can put up numbers against the teams in the Big Ten, the teams they played this year. They played Ohio State, they played Michigan, they played Penn State. I mean, you put up numbers against those teams. Yeah, you're in a good spot.
Oh, most definitely. Our Blitnikoff Award for Best Wide Receiver went to none other than Jamar Chase out of LSU as LSU continued cleaning house, and he had a great year. Real great year.
So many good receivers could have taken this award home.
Oh, most definitely. Most
But
definitely.
I think just with the way that LSU's offense has been, what level they've been on, it makes sense that the best receiver on that team also gets the best receiver in the country.
Absolutely. The John Mackey Award for Best Tight End went to Harrison Bryant out of Florida Atlantic. Lane Kiffin making it happen with the tight ends. Definitely congrats to that young man. Kind of surprising. There were some decent tight ends this year.
Yeah, a little bit of love for the small schools. I like it.
Yeah, gotta have it.
I like it.
And
Go ahead.
And for the next one, the Remington, I loved how you had to put the phonetic spelling of his last name.
I'm helping you out.
I don't know if you're helping or stabbing me. I just...
Well, it's funny because like for some of these names, I didn't know how to say it. So you got to look it up.
That's true. Got to do your research.
You got to do your homework.
Got to do your homework. But the Remington Award for Best Center went to Tyler Biadish out of Wisconsin.
Yes.
Thank you for that phonetic spelling.
I got you.
As Wisconsin ended up being able to churn out what ended up being the Doak Walker Award winner and Jonathan Taylor, turning out a great season. And that always happens behind a great offensive line.
Yeah, and how many years in a row have they had one of the best offensive lines in the country?
I feel like it's been like a decade.
And they always churn out guys that make the NFL. So this, no surprise here. Yeah, no surprise here that yet another guy in Tyler Biadish is probably going to make the NFL and very soon. So going on to the defensive side of the ball, Outland Trophy for the best interior lineman goes to Penei Sewell from Oregon.
Very nice. Oregon definitely had a real good year, going all the way to the Pac-12 championship game. So, good job on the phonetic spelling for that one as well. The Lou Groza Award for Best Kicker, and honestly, I am not surprised in any way, shape, or form that this is the guy, even though in my eyes, you kind of lost that South Carolina game for him. None other than Rodrigo Blankenship of Georgia. Great kicker, has been there his entire college career, but the guy can kick.
Isn't he good? Is he finally gone? Like, he's been there for like 10 years.
This is his last year.
He's been there for like 10 years.
I think. I guess we'll find out next season, won't we?
The funniest thing is that if you don't know who this guy is, you see a picture. He's got this iconic look where he's got these thick black glasses that he wears on the field, and that is kind of his statement, I guess, his look.
I mean, he wears glasses normally, so I think it's just so he can see. But you know what? There must be perfect because maybe they need to test him because he was kicking so well. I don't know. Maybe that's why he threw the South Carolina game. Can't be too good.
Can't be too good.
Can't be too good. No, I'm just Josh, but he is a great kicker and our Lou Groza Award winner. In our next award, and this is really no surprise, the Bednarik Award for Defensive Player of the Year goes to none other than defensive end Chase Young out of Ohio State. Chase Young being absolutely dominant against some of the best offenses there are, and really showed why he truly is the best and might end up being one of the top picks in the NFL draft.
He also wins the Nagurski Award for Defensive Player of the Year, Chase Young. That dominant year. He was on pace for a while to get close to Terrell Suggs' record for most sacks in a season.
Yeah, absolutely insane.
Yeah, he's been just completely dominant. He's really kind of disappeared over the last couple games, but when you get triple teamed every single play, you got 3 offensive linemen in front of you. It's pretty easy to disappear.
But you know what? I feel that's a respect thing, too, because at the end of the day, they have to respect your game enough to not put 1, not 2, but 3 offensive linemen on you. 3 guys to take on 1. That's just absolutely crazy.
There was a still that, of course, being on Twitter, following Michigan Twitter, everybody likes to, we like to dump on Ohio whenever we can. But no, there's someone showed a still. And they were mocking people saying that Chase Young has disappeared. And like Michigan fans will go, yeah, he's really disappeared. And they show a picture of 3 offensive linemen in front of Chase Young. It's like, yes, of course you're going to disappear when you got 3 offensive linemen in front of you.
But that always means there's always someone else let free. So that helps
is true,
his team.
Which is part of the reason why Ohio State's defense has been as good as it has. You got to double team, triple team Chase Young. A lot of times they double team him and throw a running back as a chip block. just to try to slow him down.
Yeah, you gotta do whatever you can.
Somebody else is going to get free and rush the passer.
Most definitely. Our Buckus Award for best linebacker goes to Isaiah Simmons out of Clemson. Definitely no surprise given how dominant Clemson has been, especially in the second half of the season defensively. So hats off to Isaiah Simmons. And then our Jim Thorpe Award for best DB goes to Grant Delpit out of LSU. Yet another award for the Tigers to suck up because they absolutely killed it this year.
Yep, Ray Guy Award for the best punter goes to Max Duffy from Kentucky. The Bullsworth Trophy, which is the top former walk-on, goes to Kenny Willix, defensive end from Michigan State. Most inspirational player, which is actually called the Disney Spirit Award. Yes.
Why am I not surprised?
It is called the Disney Spirit Award. I kid you not. But it goes to Casey O'Brien, who's the punter / holder from Minnesota.
Great story.
Now, why this story is so big. He is a 4-time cancer survivor. 4-time cancer survivor. When he was 13, he was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, which is a rare bone cancer. He's endured a series of chemotherapy treatments and lung surgeries. He's also undergone a full left knee replacement and still has rods in his legs.
And he still goes out there to row that boat.
And he still goes out. He is the definition of what PJ Fleck's mantra of row the boat is all about.
Absolutely.
Is no matter what your situation is, no matter what kind of adversity you've had to overcome, you can still do things that you want to do in life. You just got to go out, bust your ass, and do it.
Most definitely.
Work for it.
You know, if you go out there, no matter the odds, and show that you can overcome, that is huge inspiration to people. And be able to see someone actually do it and actually live it is truly amazing. Obviously, you don't wish anything like cancer on anyone, but
Absolutely.
to be able to survive it not once, not twice, not even 3 times, but 4 times.
Yeah.
And battle it most of your life to be able to get to this point, to be a part of a great Big Ten team in Minnesota, part of the PJ Fleck model, rowing that boat hard. And I feel rowing that boat is very showing of Casey O'Brien. He is that guy that rows that boat, continues to fight through, and now you're the most inspirational player of the year.
Yeah, it's an awesome story. The last award of the night was the Werfel Trophy, which goes to excellent community service to every college player every year. And, of course, Western Michigan, John Wasnick, quarterback from Western Michigan, wins the award this year, which is a great honor bestowed I think, between this award, Inspirational Player, and the Academic Heisman. Those are my 3 favorite awards every year for the award show because they don't necessarily talk about on the field. It's the off the field stuff.
And that's what's really big.
Great.
Yeah, it's always big because, at the end of the day, these men are bigger than football. Football is not everything. So, being able to use your status, be able to use your position to be able to help others and do community outreach is always really huge.
Yep. Unlike Antonio Brown. Anyway.
Wow. I thought we were not going to mention him, sir.
You know what? We can't. I can't help it. I'm sorry. I can't help it.
You're affected by the Brown syndrome over here.
I am. We're talking about they announced the Heisman finalists, of course, over the last week as well, and very familiar names on this list.
Oh yes,
Joe Burrow, quarterback at LSU; Justin Fields, quarterback at Ohio State; Jalen Hurts, quarterback at Oklahoma; and of course Chase Young, who we just talked about, who is the defensive end for Ohio State. Now, out of this field, we both have our picks. We're both obviously taking Joe Burrow here.
Absolutely.
But funny thing to note is that Oklahoma having not 1, not 2, but their 3rd potential Heisman winner in a row.
Yeah, it's definitely something to look at, especially after looking at Baker Mayfield and then Kyler Murray, both who were quarterback transfers into the Sooner program and ended up going on and winning the Heisman. And then you have your 3rd quarterback transfer, which is honestly probably the biggest one they had given the program he came from in Alabama and having championship rings, being part of a championship program and coming to Oklahoma. And it would be very, very interesting and crazy if Oklahoma were to pull this off a 3rd time in a row. However, I think Joe Burrow just had way too good of a season, and LSU's quarterback and pivot is going to be able to take this one home.
Yeah, and that's going to be coming up in the next couple weeks here before we get up to bowl season, actually. And so be on the lookout for that. It's going to be a lot of fun to kind of get involved in that. Coaches on the move as well. Last thing, wrapping up some college football here. Obviously, we talked about Lane Kiffin already, moving on from Florida Atlantic, winning 2 of the last 3 Conference USA titles, going to Ole Miss, which has been under a lot of scrutiny and a massive amount of turnover in the last few years. You got Hugh Freeze and all that stuff that happened, and all the scandals that went on there. And then just lately, they had their last coach that was fired. I forget his name, but he used to play there. It was a dream job for him.
Yeah.
A lot of players are upset that he was let go. But Lane Kiffin to Ole Miss, good fit.
I think it could be, and I find it interesting because I feel like Lane Kiffin did this for multiple reasons, not just obviously to be able to jump back into a Power 5 conference with a Power 5 team, but he's going to use this as a way to step back at Alabama, which reportedly he's been trying to steal a lot of assistance from Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide program. So definitely going to be interesting to see the power struggles in the SEC West now as we go forward with Lane Kiffin as the head guy in Ole Miss.
I would call that steal a very risky word.
Misappropriating?
But what I'm getting at is that this happens all the time in college. Whenever a new coach goes somewhere, they try to pull assistants that they like from other schools. So it's not all uncommon. It is just made to be more than it is because it's Lane Kiffin in his past with being at Tennessee and working with Nick Saban.
And now he's targeting Alabama assistants.
And now he's targeting Alabama assistants.
Almost.
We kind of knew when he took the job at FAU, you kind of knew that it was only going to be a couple of years tops, and he was going to be back into a Power 5 school. And
I said 3.
And it only took 3 years, and I figured it would actually be after 1 or 2.
That's what I thought.
figured it would only be 2 years, and he'd be out and go to a new school. But it should be a good fit. I mean, Lane Kiffin back into a Power 5 conference. It's going to be great media day.
Oh, absolutely.
Already excited for media day for him.
And what's funny, too, is that when they did the unveiling, they had beers half off and all this kind of stuff. So they literally turned it into a party when they announced that Lane Kiffin was going to be the head coach. So I find it very interesting how all that went. And I don't know, Lane Kiffin Day now in Ole Miss is going to be interesting. But how about the guy that replaced him at FAU? I think that's a little bit interesting.
Yeah, former Florida State head coach Willie Taggart, estranged coach, really.
Estranged at this point.
He only lasted just over 20 games at Florida State. It's a train wreck of a scenario for him there, and taking over for Jimbo Fisher, and you got some big shoes to fill there. But he takes over at FAU. There's a lot of talk about his contract. Did he actually sign it with FSU? We don't know if both parties signed or not. There's rumors both ways about it.
Yeah.
But the big thing is that Willie Taggart has now voided a portion of his, not signing bonus, but he's a portion of his settlement, I guess, that when you get fired, you can still get the rest of your contract.
Yeah, when they buy you out. And all
the buyout. That's what it is. Yeah. Thank you. He has now voided part of that because he got a job within, I think they said after 2021 he could get a job. In the contract, in the buyout, if he were to get fired or leave the school, he could not get another job until after the 2021 season and expect to get all of his money. Well,
the thing is, if he didn't sign the contract, then we're going to be in the position where that might not even be applicable.
Right, and there's the talk that I've seen lately is that Willie Taggart signed it, FSU has not.
Ooh.
FSU didn't sign it, Willie Taggart did. But again, there's reports going that way. There's reports that neither party signed. We don't really know. And really, it's not going to matter because Willie Taggart isn't obviously getting as much money as he got at Florida State. But
obviously,
he's back on his feet, going to get another job. There's rumors that he might go to Michigan to help with Jim Harbaugh because they work together at Stanford, and even further back than that. So it's good to see him land on his feet, and hopefully he does a little bit better at a smaller school because his track record at big schools has not been great.
No, it hasn't. But the luck that he has right now is that he is inheriting a program in a beautiful position right now. Lane Kiffin has left Florida Atlantic now as a 2-time Conference USA champion, even competed for the title another time. So this is a team that's right there and honestly has a lot of great things happening for them. So Willie Taggart's going to be in a beautiful position. The interesting part is going to be how he does recruiting and what he's able to do after Lane Kiffin's recruits start getting out.
So I know we've got a big UCF contingent around here because we live around here. It's all over the the media and all that kind of stuff. And of course we've got a lot of fans of the show that are UCF fans. I think this is a positive that Willie Taggart went to FAU because now part of the reason why UCF I think is in the position they're in where they're trying to win double digits and they lost their game streak and all that kind of stuff, talking about Josh Heupel, how soon can they get rid of him for some stupid reason. Oh my God, you're not undefeated? Weird. You can't go undefeated forever.
Yeah, you're UCF.
But I think this will really help UCF because now if Lane Kiffin was pulling any recruits to go from UCF to go to FAU,
not anymore.
The name recognition is much higher with Lane Kiffin. Now I think Josh Heupel and Willie Taggart are on the same level. As far as recruiting standpoint. So I think this could really help out UCF.
I absolutely agree. But looking at FSU, where Willie Taggart was estranged from, we now have a head man there too. And former Memphis head coach Mike Norvell, after having the great season he did with Memphis and going on to be the American Athletic Conference champions, he will now become the head man for the Seminoles.
Hear me out. This is a blessing in disguise. Mm-hmm. Because one of the guys I like to follow his columns, Mike Bianchi, who works for the Orlando Sentinel, mm-hmm. Sports writer for them, made some really good points in a column about how this could be a match made in heaven for FSU. Not only, he's not a big name coach that may or may not bring in good talent, but he is an offensive genius. Mm-hmm. And that right there will put butts in seats and bring excitement back to this program of FSU that honestly hasn't been there in some time.
No, honestly, since the Jameis Winston days, this program has been in utter shambles.
Yeah,
honestly, and it's been tough road sledding. You had a lot of supposedly great quarterbacks that stepped into this program to try and be the pivot man that just never came to fruition. You had players trying to leave the program as fast as they could. Willie Taggart ended up with a runaway program that he no longer could keep control of. It was just bad all the way around. They took a great program and they got wrecked. But I think you're right that Mike Norvell is the guy that could really bring a lot of spark, not only offensively, but it brings an entire different approach. He brings an entire different energy than what you had with Willie Taggart. I feel like this is almost getting back to like early Jimbo Fisher days and excitement levels even, just because I feel like they really could do something here. But
they could, but you have to display patience because
and that's the thing.
That's like excitement level isn't nearly as high as with Jimbo was there because of the fact of name recognition.
Exactly.
But if you're patient, FSU fans, this could be a very good hire. You just got to be patient. Just for
that's what it comes down to.
2 years.
Because he's going to have to get the recruits that will fit his offense, the guys that he can be able to pull, that are going to be able to do everything that he needs to for this program. So it's going to take a little time.
Yep.
You might get lucky. It won't be this next season. Maybe the season after. You guys are going to start finding some success. Maybe actually start competing on a realistic level, not only with the other universities in this state, but also within your conference. And that's going to be the big thing.
I think with Norvell, with what he's able to do from an offensive mind standpoint, I don't think you'll see games that you've seen with Willie Taggart this year where they're losing to Louisiana Monroe at home.
Exactly.
And late in a game. Those kind of games I think are pretty much gone just because of that. Like you said, the energy he brings, the offensive mastery that he has running X's and O's. Mm-hmm. I think this could be very good. In the short term, I think it's going to be another 5, maybe 6 win season this first year. We'll see how his recruiting class goes. But yeah, it could be really good.
Yeah, it definitely could. And we'll definitely see how that works out. But just to touch on a couple other positions, Georgia offensive line coach Sam Pittman is now going to be the head man at Arkansas, going to try and lead that beleaguered program back into some type of prominence. It's been some time, almost I'd say probably 10 or 15 years since that program has really had any kind of success. So they're really hoping that he can breathe a little bit of life into it. And Appalachian State head coach Elijah Drinkwitz will now be the head man at Missouri. Missouri ousting their coach after a dismal season and even having former Clemson quarterback Kelly Bryant transfer into the program to try and breathe some life into the quarterback position. Did not work. Now he's out and replaced by I think is going to be a really great coach for Missouri.
Yeah, and App State has been on a tear the last couple years.
yeah.
Obviously, they just made the jump from FCS to FBS, and they are still. You see what they were doing. See what they were doing in their bowl games. I mean, they're still dominating
Absolutely.
at an absurd level, even for that low of a school in comparison to the Power Fives. And this could be a really good hire. I think it's a really great hire for Missouri. The Arkansas hire is a little bit of a head scratcher to me because you usually don't take a position coach and move him up to a head coach right away. But that's the guy they like. We'll see what happens with Arkansas.
Yeah, we'll definitely see how a lot of that works out, and we'll definitely report on some more head coach movements and other staff movements as we get further into bowl season and into the off season, because it's definitely going to be interesting, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of movement. But it is now time to switch gears over to the NFL, and this past Thursday night we had a barn burner, I feel like, of a game. Baltimore Ravens taking it to the New York Jets, ended up taking it 42-21. All I got to say is I am so happy I started Lamar Jackson in fantasy.
Yeah, your daily fantasy team really took a jolt right there.
Yes, it did.
Thankfully, I have him on one of my season-long fantasy teams. So
oh, yeah.
He is
That's
helping
true.
me make the semifinals for fantasy football. So for that, I thank you. But talking about Lamar Jackson, I mean, after this kind of game, I put out a poll question yesterday, I believe,
right,
asking who you thought would be the NFL MVP. Obviously, the vast majority is Lamar Jackson. Actually, a different question we could ask: will he be unanimous?
Ooh, honestly, I feel at this point, given how far he is setting himself apart, now breaking the single season quarterback rushing record that Mike Vick held for so long, and being able to still be a very consistent and very successful passer, I don't see any way you knock this guy out, because this could be the first quarterback we see not only with over 1,200 rushing yards, but also with over 40 touchdowns.
Right.
This guy is money. He threw 5 touchdown passes in that game while still breaking the rushing record.
The crazy thing about this offense is that while Lamar Jackson leads the NFL in passing touchdowns, the passing offense is ranked in the 20s.
Yep.
Because they don't need to throw the ball.
No.
That is how efficient this guy is.
It's surgical.
And we were talking about this the other day. Imagine if Mike Vick was actually an accurate passer, like early in his career. He could have been on this level.
Absolutely.
But I mean, what Lamar Jackson is doing is absolutely never been seen before. I don't think he'll be unanimous because of the fact that Russell Wilson is also having a spectacular year.
He is. He really is.
I don't see him being unanimous just because I think a few votes will go to Russ Wilson, but I think he's going to be the overwhelming MVP candidate.
It's so hard to say. I'm going to say he's going to be unanimous just because of the fact you can't ignore it. Like the guy has a 112.6 quarterback rating this season, and it's absolutely insane to see a guy playing at that level. He's absolutely killing it. 33 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. He's thrown for over 2,800 yards. The guy is surgical. He's throwing for over 66%. He's killing it, absolutely killing it. But again, people do think the way they think. Sometimes I be a little hard-headed or biased, as you might think. Happens.
Not you.
You're so nice. Either way, though, I think he's just too good of a talent to try and ignore. It's like the Patrick Mahomes effect. When Patrick Mahomes came and stepped in after having a veteran quarterback step out of the way, he lit the world on fire. Now you have the situation where Lamar Jackson ends up stepping in. Joe Flacco gets traded away from the team. He lit the world on fire. And it's absolutely crazy to see this type of progression. I really honestly think, who's the next random young guy quarterback to step out next year and do this?
That just kind of goes to show you as well with the NFL draft, with looking at quarterbacks, you can throw out all the prototypical stuff that you want. Sam Darnold was that guy. They were talking about, where should he have been drafted? He's going to be the guy that's going to save the Jets because he's got the look, he's got the hair, he's got the build, he's got the arm, he's got the legs. And then here comes a guy in Lamar Jackson who everyone's like, oh, he's going to be a wide receiver. He's going to be Eric Crouch. He's going to be, guys like that. And he goes, no, I'm playing quarterback. And he's showing everyone why he is such a threat. Look at what he did on this game. He only threw the ball 23 times. He was 15 of 23, 212 yards, 5 touchdowns through the air.
5 touchdowns.
And then He had on the ground 86 yards on only 8 carries, and
he led the rushers for Baltimore.
Yeah.
Even outpacing Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram had 13 touches, but he only had 76 yards. So it's Lamar Jackson is that staple of this entire team. But that's what happens when you take an actual offensive game plan and mold it to your quarterback and not try to put Lamar Jackson into a Joe Flacco offense, which is what they tried to do at the end of last year.
Well, it's also helpful too that when you have a guy like Lamar Jackson, he does make plays in the pocket, but he's obviously more comfortable on the run, running and making plays with his feet. And if you have a guy like that, obviously it helps to have that cheat code.
Of course,
you can overshadow things like a poor offensive line. Ravens don't necessarily have a poor offensive line, but I mean, look at comparison to Sam Darnold on the other side. I mean, Sam Darnold, 18 of 32, 218 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick, but he is a more prolific pocket passer, quote unquote. And if you don't have a strong offensive line or strong weapons to get the ball out to, you're going to see Sam Darnold struggle the way he has at times this year.
Absolutely. But you know what I love more than anything? It's just the balance of the Ravens. They rushed for 218 yards as a team. They passed for 212 yards as a team. It's always almost an even split. And that's the thing I think a lot of teams have trouble accounting for and game planning for is that Lamar Jackson, you get him in an RPO situation, he's going to kill you no matter what. 9 times out of 10, that ball's either going to leave his hand or he's going to end up scampering for a run and he's going to beat you. Could be with his arm or his legs. And that's the ultimate weapon when it comes to playing football because you can't stop a guy like Lamar Jackson. Patrick Mahomes did it last year. Lamar Jackson's doing it this year. And it's just absolutely insane to see how this offense runs because looking at how they've had this drubbing of the Jets, how they absolutely destroyed the Rams, even when they completely blew out the Dolphins to start the season, they just showed that they can kill you in any kind of way offensively and you're not going to be able to stop it. So we'll definitely see how a lot of this will work out. Of course, with the Jets, they were a 5-8 team going into this game, so it wasn't really too much of a surprise that the Ravens went out and was able to do this to the Jets. Obviously, I thought they were going to do this all along. I started them in my daily fantasy, like you mentioned.
Right.
But now you have the Ravens at 12-2. Is this the most dangerous team right now in the NFL?
Yeah, absolutely, because you have Lamar Jackson on running the show. Look at what Mark Ingram does. They talked about how when Mark Ingram left New Orleans, he's aging, he's washed up, he's not a feature back, and he goes to Baltimore and he's looking rejuvenated. I saw a tweet from one of the other players, I can't remember his name, talking about Mark Ingram looks like he could go out and win the Heisman again. Like that's how much energy he has, and you've seen his post-game press conferences and interviews and all that kind of stuff. Like
entertaining.
It's so entertaining to see so much life and so much joy from him.
How about that meme though?
Yeah.
How about that meme? I want to find someone that the way that Mark Ingram looks at Lamar Jackson.
Find someone to look at. Find someone to look at you the way Mark Ingram looks at Lamar Jackson.
Don't mind me. I can't always English. I think we've proven this before.
We've proven this. But I think they're absolutely the most dangerous team in the NFL. I mean, look at the other top teams, even in the AFC. The Patriots, they're 10-win team, but they do not look like a 10-win team.
And they got beat bad by the Ravens. Their worst loss was to the Ravens.
And then the other teams that are leading divisions, the Chiefs, Pat Mahomes having a down year as expected. He's still hobbled with some injury, maybe. Look at the AFC South. The Titans are probably the best team right now.
Well, tied with Houston, but still.
It's a toss-up, though. I'd like recent, and of course they have a game this weekend.
Of course.
Recently, looking at the past few games, I think the Titans are the better team in that division right now.
Absolutely.
The Bills in the East, they got a tough game at Pittsburgh this weekend, but other teams, I don't think any other team in the AFC can beat this team the way it's currently sitting right now.
I absolutely agree. And it's absolutely crazy to see the maturation of this quarterback from what he had last year going into this year and just how he's been able to play throughout the entire season. My only question is he able to keep this consistent going into future seasons? And that's going to be the big thing. But we'll definitely have a lot more on that.
As he develops as a passer, yes, he will be able to sustain it. But the nice thing is, he's taken the most hits of any quarterback, but how many times do you throw on the film and you see him get out of potential hits and just tiptoe to the sideline and stuff? If he can avoid hits, obviously that's going to help him out.
And I think he has amazing lateral movement, and that's something I feel he has a little bit more over what Vic had. Vic might have had, about just as good inline speed, but I feel like Lamar Jackson has really great fast twitch muscle fibers to be able to have that good lateral movement. It's just amazing to see, but we'll see how it all goes. But now jumping into our weekly pick'em for week 15, it's been absolutely crazy with the start with the Ravens and Jets. But now we have a matchup of games tomorrow starting at 1 o'clock, and we're going to start right out the top with the Miami Dolphins at 3-10, going all the way up to New MetLife Stadium to take on the New York Giants at 2-11. The Giants, though, are a team who've been able to kind of hang in there, and they are favored in this by 3.5. Who do you have in this game?
Their games, their last game they played, they actually looked better than the last time Eli was playing. You know what I mean? Like Eli looked like he was a little bit more, a little spring in the step, a little bit. And I think Eli knows that this is kind of it for him in a Giants uniform. So I expect them to go out at home, get the win against the Dolphins. But I would not count out Fitzmagic what they've done. And they just re-signed Devontae Parker to an extension just within the last few days. So they are clearly trying to actually build and not tank, which is kind of weird.
A little bit.
Kind of weird for them. But I'm going to take the Giants. This is a tough game to pick. I think it's going to be a very close game. But I'm going to take the Giants in a close one.
Between Dolphins and Giants, Dolphins have been playing a lot better football as of late, but the Giants, I feel like, are just too talented, especially at home. Now that they have Golden Tate back at full strength, you still have Sterling Shepard in the lineup, and of course, let's not forget Darius Slay, who's been really emerging for them in a lot of ways.
Slayton,
sorry.
Darius Slay plays for the Lions.
Slayton. Yeah, nobody cares about the Lions. Either way, though, the Giants, I feel, are going to have enough. They got to get Saquon running. That's going to be the big key. And Dolphins are not very good at stopping the run.
Right.
So as long as they can get Saquon Barkley going, you're going to be able to take pressure off the passing game. And the Giants, I think, are going to be able to take this one. I'm going to say Giants are going to win and cover.
Well, Giants are actually the most healthy they've been all year right now.
Surprisingly.
So, yeah, surprisingly, they've been the most healthy they've been all year. So I think that'll also play a fact into it. So, yeah, taking the Giants to cover.
Taking the Giants to cover.
I can see that.
But in our next matchup, we have the 10-3 Seattle Seahawks traveling on over to Carolina to take on the 5-8 Panthers. Seahawks are favored by 6. Who do you got?
I'm taking Seahawks on the road. I know it's West Coast traveling east. It's tougher for those teams to do that. But the Panthers they're terrible against the run. Their run defense looks atrocious. I expect Chris Carson to have a big game. I expect that offense of the Seahawks to play well. Kyle Allen has shown he's not very good against the blitz, against a good pass rush. That's exactly what the Seahawks have. Their defense has really turned it on the last couple weeks. I'm taking Seahawks big.
Yeah, I got Seahawks winning this one big too. They're just way too talented offensively, defensively. The only bright spot for the Panthers right now is Christian McCaffrey, who honestly has been slowing down at this point because the team just can't keep up with him offensively. He's way too talented, and the rest of the team, I feel like, really holds him back. The Seahawks are going to end up taking this one. I'm going to say it's going to be by 14. In our next game, though, this one I hold near and dear to my heart, we have my Philadelphia Eagles at 6-7 and in a tie with the Dallas Cowboys for the NFC East lead. Cowboys currently holding the tiebreaker, having had a win over the Eagles earlier this season in Dallas. But the Eagles now got to travel on the road to take on the 3-10 Washington Redskins. Eagles are favored by 4.5. Who do you got?
Good God, this is the worst division in football. Woo! Worst division in football. Woo! But Eagles have a chance. It is literally hot potato. I don't want the division. Here, Dallas, you have it. I don't want the division. Here, Eagles, you have it. That's what's going on right now. But I'm not confident in all the injuries that the Eagles have sustained all year. They have no offensive line. They barely have any receivers. They're lining up Josh McCown in practice at wide receiver.
Oh, my God.
I know he's not going to run out there. I know that. But I'm saying that's the kind of stuff that's going on in the Eagles right now. They also have a very weak defense because of injuries. They've been stiff in the last couple weeks in spots. They came up big in that Giants win, which they needed to come back and win in overtime to win. That doesn't give me any hope. I'm going to put stock in the Redskins, and I think this is going to be an interestingly high-scoring game because Miles Sanders is going to run all over the defense for the Eagles, but AP, I think, is going to run all over the Eagles defense. I'm going to take the Redskins in a shocker at home, and they're going to get ever closer to that everyone's 6-10, which it can't happen because the Giants are 2-11, but they're getting ever closer. I'm going to take the Redskins in a shocking upset at home against the Eagles.
You make my brain hurt a lot of this time. Anytime we talk about these games, here's the thing. The Eagles, yes, did come out really slow against the Giants and ended up needing to come back and overtime to win. But that was in rain, slot fest. Like we said, by the end of the game, all that Philadelphia had left for receiving help was 3 tight ends and Greg Ward. And that is all they had.
Yeah.
Now, it's going to be a little bit different this week. They get J.J. Arcega-Whiteside back, who did go out during last week's game. He's going to be healthy. They did promote a wide receiver from the practice squad, which does not make me feel any kind of better about the situation. However, we do have Brandon Brooks back on the offensive line. All we're going to be missing now this week is Lane Johnson. That definitely does hurt, though, just because his replacement has not always played well in his position. However, they do get their linebacker Gruger Hill back, which will solidify us now in that front 7. So we're definitely going to see how a lot of that will work. I think in this, AP will play well, but it just won't be enough because my big concern is the quarterback position. There's going to be so much pressure on the quarterback to be able to try and make good decisions under pressure, and whether it's Dwayne Haskins, I don't even know who else they got behind him anymore. Is Case Keenum still playing right now?
Case Keenum still
Did he quit yet? I don't know. He looked like a pansy.
Colt McCoy.
I thought he quit football 3 years ago.
No,
so, at the end of the...
That was Jay Gruden's guy, man. That's not saying
hey,
much.
I know he lost a national title to Alabama. That doesn't make it good. At the end of the day, though, I feel the Eagles are still too talented to be and too experienced to lose to the Redskins. The quarterback's going to be an issue, which means they're going to rely on the run game. Defense is going to be able to stuff AP more times than not, and I think that the Eagles are going to win. It's going to be a war of attrition, but I think they end up winning this one. I think it's going to be like a 21-17 game.
I think it's going to be a close game no matter what. But when you let the Dolphins come back and win, and then you're barely squeaking by the Giants, it's going to be a tough game. But all the pressure is absolutely on the Eagles. They got to keep pace. They got to try to win this division. You've had aspirations to get to the playoffs, get the NFC Championship game. It starts by winning games you're supposed to win, and if they want it, they got to go get it.
Absolutely. In our next game, we have the Denver Broncos at 5-8, traveling over to Kansas City to take on the 9-4 Chiefs. Chiefs are favored by 9.5 and are trying to keep that lead in their division. Who do you got?
Chiefs in a surprisingly close game. Now, the reason I say that, the Chiefs have had dominant games, but they also are hobbled with some injuries. They're having some struggles there. The Broncos have been playing better than a lot of people have given them credit for at this point in the season, sitting at 5-8. Vic Fangio, seems like they've got this team kind of playing inspired and actually following what he's teaching. He's got them, rallied. So I think the Broncos are going to lose this game. I think they're going to cover, but I'll take the Chiefs at home, Arrowhead, cold weather. I'll take the Chiefs.
I also have the Chiefs, but I also think it's going to be a close game, and it's going to be because of one big factor, and that's the fact that the Broncos have been playing really good football these past 3 games, and that's something that a lot of people aren't looking at. They kind of write off the Broncos. They're like, oh, well, this is a losing program or franchise right now. They're still dealing with quarterback issues and are now down to Drew Lock, but Drew Lock has actually been playing pretty good, and let's not forget, at one point, the Broncos had a 20-point lead 20-0 on the Vikings in their game in Minnesota, and they've been able to just go out and really show that, hey, we do have an offense, guys. Philip Lindsay's still running the ball good. You still have a lot of great weapons on this offense. I think they're going to come out, and I think they're going to try and smack the Chiefs in the mouth, and I think they're going to take an early lead, but I think the Chiefs are still going to be able to win this war, and they're going to take it, but I think it's only going to be about a 3-point game, but Chiefs nonetheless. In our next game, though, we have a battle of 8 and 5s and the battle for the AFC South between the Texans and the Titans over in Tennessee. The Titans are favored by 3, but they've been playing amazing football behind the great arm of Ryan Tannehill, who seems to be having a Nashville resurgence, if you will, since leaving Miami. Who do you got in this game?
I'm taking the Titans on the back of just the wave that this team, the Tennessee Titans, have been on. Tannehill is playing the best football probably of his career right now. The Texans, you don't know what you're getting out of them. They're very Jekyll and Hyde. You don't know what kind of offense is going to show up. You don't know if they're gonna come out and play well at all. Like defense, special teams, doesn't matter. On the road in Tennessee, Titans are favored, and this is, like you said, for the division. This is to take the lead and ultimately probably win this division.
Yes.
I'm going to give the edge to the Titans, and Vrabel's finally going to get a chance He's been so close to winning the division the last few years. They're going to finally do it.
I agree. I think Tennessee Titans are going to take this one. It's definitely going to be tight. You really don't know which Texans teams you're going to get. Now with injuries to Will Fuller, you still have a depleted running back field with basically just Carlos Hyde left anymore. So Deshaun Watson's not going to be able to shoulder everything. I love Deshaun Watson, but you're not Lamar Jackson. I hate to say it. So at the end of the day, I think he's going to be able to score points. They're going to be able to get the ball down the field, but it's not going to be enough. This wave that the Tennessee Titans have been on has been absolutely amazing. And Ryan Tannehill, I never thought in a million years would not only unseat Marcus Mariota, but be playing amazing football right now, because the Tennessee Titans are now a force to reckon with. And I think they're going to take this one, and it's going to be surprising to see how this ends, because I think they're going to take the whole division.
The effect of why he's playing good football, lack of Adam Gase.
I think a lot of people are
subtract Adam Gase and look at what some of these players have been doing. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just funny because
let's not forget though, you have a Derrick Henry who's also running the ball amazingly well.
Yeah, and he's the workhorse for that team, and as he should be. I mean, that's the guy that you got to run your offense through. And it's weird. It's a weird recipe that actually plays well. If you run the ball successfully, play solid defense, and don't turn the ball over, oh my God, you could win football games.
Hey, who would have thought? But looking at our next game, we have the New England Patriots at 10-3 traveling to Cincinnati to play the hapless Bengals, who are 1-12. The Patriots are favored by 9.5, but apparently they may or may not have some game film already. Who do you got?
Upset alert.
Oh no.
Upset alert. The Patriots, even though they are a 10-win team, I've said this before, they look like one of the worst 10-win teams in the NFL. Like, they are the worst 10-win team in the NFL, which is funny because, they're 10 wins. Look at how they've been playing the last couple weeks. Brady does not look good. The offense, they've got some injuries. They have Mohamed Sanu has basically disappeared since he's arrived in New England. The defense has got issues. I would not be surprised to see the Bengals pull off a huge upset. I'm taking the Patriots.
Okay,
but I think it's going to be a close game.
You almost put me in a cardiac arrest.
Look at what Andy Dalton's done since he's come back as a starter. Joe Mixon has been one of the best running backs in the last couple weeks in the NFL. I go by trends.
True, but look at
that trend right there. That trend right there shows me they've been in every game the last couple weeks, and they've had chances to win.
Well, I'm sorry. 2 weeks ago, they got blown out by the 49ers, 41-17.
It's also the 49ers.
Exactly. They played the Seahawks, and yes, they lost.
That was earlier. That was at the beginning of the year, buddy.
Oh, I'm looking at the other end. Sorry, It doesn't matter. They played the Jets, the Browns, and the Steelers. So really, what are you hanging your hat on? That's what my point here being. And before that, you played the Raiders, and before that, you got blown out 49-13 by the Ravens. This is not a team that's going to be able to hang. The thing is that while the offense is having a lot of issues, the Patriots defense is still the Patriots defense. And they have maybe not been playing to their, 1985 Chicago Bears beating level that they were at the beginning of the year.
When they were playing no quarterbacks and no offenses, now that they're actually playing against offenses that are legitimately decent, they've been struggling.
This is Andy Dalton, though.
Look at what Andy Dalton's done the last couple weeks.
That is regardless. Andy Dalton, yes, may have gotten rejuvenated by the fact that, he had to be benched. Think about it. You've lost it to a guy who nobody knows, and now you get named the starter because, the guy sucks too. But at the end of the day, you're not a world beater. You're still also without A.J. Green. All you really have for receiving help is Tyler Eifert, Taj Boyd, and that's about it. So Joe Mixon, yes, I do agree, has been playing really great football as of late, but this is also, again, the Patriots defense. Andy Dalton ranks very, very low compared to a lot of these quarterbacks his defense has faced, and I don't think that the Bengals, while they may be able to keep it somewhat close, I don't think are going to have anything to be able to keep this team at bay. I think the Patriots are going to win this, and I think they're going to cover as well. It may not be the prettiest game, but a 10-point win, easy, I think.
The last two games that the Bengals have played, a win against the Jets, and I'm talking about games since Andy Dalton's come back.
Okay.
243 in the score, and they won 22-6. Mm-hmm. Previous game against the Browns on the road, 262, no touchdowns. Mixon, 146 yards on the ground and a touchdown.
Yeah, Mixon's playing great.
And look at Andy Dalton's not making mistakes. I mean, they're
Browns,
in games.
Jets, Steelers.
You're just using name recognition. That's not a valid argument.
It is a valid argument because at the end of the day, they all have losing records other than the Steelers, who are lucky to have the record they have because they were lucky that Mason Rudolph wasn't knocked completely stupid after getting hit in the head with a helmet by Myles Garrett. So at the end of the day, what you're looking at is, they've played all these teams and barely beat them. You know, the Steelers they're 6-5 right now. Sorry, 7-5 right now. That's not all that respectable. And they were lucky to be there to begin with. And most of it's been on the back of their defense. So at the end of the day, the Bengals, I don't think, are a team that's going to strike real fear in anyone, and that's going to include the New England Patriots. There's no way the Patriots lose this game whatsoever.
All right.
Unless the Bengals somehow had their own film crew at Foxborough during the last game, which I don't believe they did. If they were smart, maybe they did. But at the end of the day, I just don't see it happening.
I'm just saying, don't be surprised if the Bengals keep it close and win the game. Don't be surprised.
And win the game. You know, no big deal.
Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised.
You pain me. All right, our next game, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 6-7, traveling to your Detroit Lions, who are currently 3-9-1. The Bucs are only favored by 3.5. I'm not going to lie, though. I almost picked the Lions in this game.
Why?
Really did.
Why?
I really did. Because honestly, the Bucs are so cardiac, which is why they're 6-7, that it's hard to trust what offense you're going to have from week to week, what defense you're going to have from week to week. And let's not forget, Mike Evans is out.
Oh yeah, Mike Evans out. But you want a list of guys that are not playing for the Lions? Matt Stafford, Kerryon Johnson is coming back. He is coming back. I have a reason why. I have a theory why. Stafford's out. Marvin Jones, IR. A'Shawn Robinson on the D-line, out. Hand is out.
No, my hand is in, sir.
Yeah, no. But all the injuries that the Lions have, on top of David Blau, outside of the first half of his Thanksgiving game, has looked like an undrafted free agent quarterback.
Which he is.
And the Buccaneers defense, their pass rush has been one of the better pass rushes in the NFL this season. Mm-hmm. Couple that with injuries on the offense for the Lions, an inability to play quarterback. There's no, I don't know why you would pick, and I'm a Lions fan.
Listen. I never said I picked the Lions. I said I almost.
You said you almost picked the Lions. And I'm saying, why would you even think about it?
Because honestly, the Lions come up in games against teams that are right around this point at 500 or below and are able to shock teams at sometimes. I think that the Lions do have a shot in this. Do they win? No. But at the end of the day, the Buccaneers are also a team I don't think that really elicits fear. Jameis Winston, yeah, sure, he might throw up 300 yards and 4 touchdowns with Mike Evans healthy, but he also will end up throwing 4 or 5 picks right along with it. And that's the thing you have to look at. He has the most interceptions by any quarterback this season and has been absolutely dismal when it comes to turnovers. He's the one that probably has caused a lot of these losses for the Bucs because of stupid turnovers. But at the end of the day, he kind of reminds me of a Brett Favre. Let me just sling it as much as I can. Magic will happen, and typically it does. But most of that time, it's the Mike Evans. So at this point, he's really going to be relying. He's the top receiver this season. What are you talking about? It's 1,200 plus yards, multiple touchdowns. Chris Godwin's still behind him in receiving.
Chris Godwin's got 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns.
Yes, but they've been even with Mike Evans, and you just lost half of your receiving. You just lost half of your receiving power.
That's not going to matter against the Lions.
It will.
It's not going to matter.
Okay, well, that's why the games are played on Sundays.
You're talking about. I was talking about Kerryon Johnson.
Yes.
Real quick before we go on, and this isn't going to take long. So the Lions, I have a theory why Kerryon Johnson's coming back and why Matt Stafford's not on IR.
Okay.
Matt Patricia is coaching for his job the rest of the season. He potentially could be fired. There's no reason, no ungodly reason why you would bring back your top feature running back who is made out of glass. I love him. He's a great talent, but he can't stay healthy. Why would you bring him back with 2 games left when you're clearly you're supposed to be tanking to try to get Chase Young or get whoever you need to get to fill all the holes? They're bringing him back, and Matt Stafford's not on IR. But you put T.J. Hawkinson on IR. You put Marvin Jones on IR. What's the theory here? I'm thinking that Patricia is trying to coach for his. He's trying to coach for his job,
which makes all the more sense for him to be competitive and try and win this game.
Right,
honestly.
But I think that's only going to spell more disaster by having Kerryon Johnson in the game. Mm-hmm. Just cut your losses. Try to get a good draft pick. And go from there. But that offense for the Bucs, coupled with their pass rush, I don't think this is going to be that close.
I think it'll be closer, but we'll definitely see. But in our last 1 o'clock game, what I think is going to be a kind of an interesting matchup, depending upon how it plays out. You have the resurgent 7-6 Bears behind the great arm of Mitchell Trubisky these past couple weeks, traveling up to the frozen tundra to take on the Green Bay Packers, who are 10-3 and favored by 4.5. Who do you got?
Packers, but I don't trust it.
I don't either.
The Bears offense, the Matt Nagy finally has figured out the formula, which is don't put too much pressure on Trubisky to use his arms and let him use his feet. Utilize all the weapons that you have that you brought in the offseason for this offense. And you still got a pretty good defense. So this will be a really tough game because the Packers, for all of their wins and for all of the big names they brought in the offseason, they have been struggling on offense when it matters. Rodgers has been holding the ball too long. He's holding the ball for 5 and 6 seconds to try to look for the home run ball, and he's not throwing the passes that the defense is giving him. He's not throwing underneath. He's not throwing the mid routes. He's trying to throw for the home run all the time, and I think eventually that's going to come back to bite him. So Packers at home, it's a tough game. I'm taking the Packers, but I'm not confident.
Yeah, I'm taking the Packers as well, but it's hard to be confident just because the Bears have been so hot offensively and even a little bit defensively, and it's really hard to count them out in this game. And I know earlier in the season when it was so easy to write them off because Mitchell Trubisky was playing so bad, and really all that team had was a defense headed by Khalil Mack, and that was about it. But now you have a Packers team who's been kind of reeling in a couple games recently, haven't been always playing their best, and now the Bears are coming in kind of hot into the frozen tundra. It's a recipe for disaster for the Packers, I feel like. However, I'm still going to pick the Packers. I think the Bears could cover, but I think the Packers will win. But in our first 4 o'clock game, 4:05, we have the Vikings at 9-4 traveling to LA to take on the 5-8 Chargers. Vikings are favored by only 2.5 in this game. Who do you got?
Chargers are completely healthy. They've got a lot of their guys back. They've shown offensive firepower in the last couple weeks.
I agree.
And you've got the Vikings traveling out west to LA. Obviously, it's not necessarily a hostile environment. Usually, it's half the opposing team in that arena,
i.e. Pittsburgh.
But I'm going to go with the Chargers in an upset here. I'm going to go with the Chargers because the fact they are finally getting fully healthy. They still have an outside chance to make a push. I mean, are they going to make the playoffs? Probably not. But I mean, you've got some building blocks here. I think this is just kind of a game that is just got the Chargers' name written on it. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely. And I can definitely see that. But however, I have the Vikings in this game. You have Adam Thielen coming back, so now this offense is now at full strength, minus BC Johnson, who has really not been anything for this team anyways. So it's really a non-factor. But looking at it, really all you're missing defensively, Xavier Rhodes is questionable. Jaron Kearse is going to be out. So I feel that Minnesota, if they have their best chance to win this game, it's going to be now. They are the healthiest that they can be right now. And honestly, Cousins is having a pretty good season, 3,200 yards, almost 3,300, 24 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. And let's not forget Dalvin Cook, over 1,100 yards, 13 touchdowns.
He's running numbers similar to Russell Wilson right now.
And that's what I'm saying. He's been killing it, honestly. Because
he's a dark horse MVP.
I feel like it because the start of this season, he's started to get just playing bad, got called out by all of his wide receivers, and since then has been a one-man wrecking crew, it feels like, in the passing game. So I think Minnesota is going to be able to win this game. I don't know if they'll cover. This might be like a 1-point win, but just because the same reasons, Chargers are a strong team now. They're at full health. They have all their pieces back in place. But what was crazy to me is that they're even still saying, oh, maybe they should bench Phillip Rivers. Why would you bench Phillip Rivers? The guy's still good. Sorry he's had a bad couple weeks this season, but at the end of the day, I still think he's your entrenched starter until he decides to retire.
Well, he's the best option they have at quarterback right now. I mean, if they go out in the draft and get a first-round pick quarterback, which is very possible. Then you can have a conversation about it. But for right now, Phillip Rivers is the best option they have at quarterback.
Yeah, hands down. But in our next 4:05 game, we have the 4-9 Jacksonville Jaguars traveling out to Oakland to take on the 6-7 Raiders. The Raiders have a horrific negative score differential right now and have been seemingly just letting points happen at will. But they are favored by 6.5 in this. Who do you got?
Did you say the Jacksonville Trash Wars? Because that's pretty much what they are right now.
I mean, that's accurate.
That's pretty accurate. This is the last game at the Black Hole. You've got the Jaguars are, for all the talent they have on that defense, have been one of the worst defenses in the league.
Yep.
I feel bad for Gardner Minshew because they pulled him as a business decision to go with Nick Foles when he clearly wasn't the option this year.
Definitely.
Minshew was on a roll. He was playing well enough. Now he comes back. You're throwing him back in. Everything is a disaster for the Jaguars. They're already making front office moves. I see the Raiders win here in the last game at the Black Hole to send the Oakland fans home happy before the team jettisons to Las Vegas.
Jettisons. I like that one. Yeah, Oakland is definitely going to be playing for everything right now. You don't want to lose to the 4-9 Jaguars.
Especially at home in your last home game ever.
Exactly. So, honestly, I don't even think this is going to be a question. Josh Jacobs is supposedly supposed to be back for this game as well. So, I think behind that great running game is going to be enough to get Derek Carr going with some of the receivers that he does have. And Jacksonville's been playing, like you said, complete trash lately. So, Oakland takes this one. And honestly, I think they'll cover as well. In our next 4 o'clock game, though, we have the Cleveland Browns at 6-7 traveling out to Arizona to take on the 3-9-1 Cardinals. Browns are favored by 2.5. Who do you got?
Browns on the road. They need this win to stay in the hunt for the playoffs. Nick Chubb, one of the leading rushers in the NFL, if not the leading rusher, I believe. He's had a very, very quietly strong year. That all the offensive weapons they have, of course, there's going to be more of a circus about what does OBJ want, but Baker Mayfield's got to he's got to consistently play well, and I think against this defense, they cut Terrell Suggs. The Cardinals did earlier this week, so not much of a pass rush there to speak of. Their defense is The offense here for the Cardinals, Kyler Murray is still going through his growing pains, and against that Browns defense, I'm going to take the Browns in a surprisingly close game.
Yeah, I also have the Browns in this one. I feel like talent-wise, they're pretty complete all the way around, even without Myles Garrett, and have been playing some good football this season, at times anyways. But you're going against the 3-9-1 Cardinals. This is a team that's still trying to figure itself out with its new air raid offense and with its new quarterback in Kyler Murray. And I feel the Browns at this point, even on the road, are going to be able to take advantage of that type of a situation. I think the Browns win and they cover. In our first 425 game, though, we have the 4-9 Atlanta Falcons traveling all the way out to San Francisco to take on the 11-2 49ers. And the 49ers, after coming off that huge win late against the New Orleans Saints last week, be the class of the NFC at this point, are favored by 10.5. Who do you got?
Call this a revenge game. Not really revenge because Mike Shanahan was outed, by Atlanta. He wasn't outed by them. He left for greener pastures to get a head coaching gig, which is a lot of coordinators do. But this is a game, I guarantee you, he's got circled in his calendar in his office as a game that he wants to make a statement. The Falcons have been playing a little bit better in recent weeks, but the 49ers are too talented of a team at home. This could be even a trap game because they got big games in the next 2 weeks here to try to get the number 1 seed in the NFC. But I'm going to take the 49ers using this as a revenge game for them, and I think they win pretty big.
I feel the 49ers, with how they've been playing, are just going to be completely unstoppable. The Falcons' defense has been, even though they are kind of back to more full strength than they have been earlier this season, still aren't going to be able to compete with this offense. Jimmy Garoppolo, honestly, is proving that he is the quarterback for the 49ers, and they did make the right move in a trade getting him from New England. But everything else they put around him, whether it be the wide receivers, the tight ends, the running backs, they have created an amazing team to put around Jimmy G, and it has shown to get them to this 11-2 record. Falcons are not going to be able to stand a chance. They're going to score points. If we proved anything with NFC South teams against the 49ers, they're going to score points. But the 49ers are just too talented, and I think they're going to take this one. But I think the Falcons will cover. In our next 425 game, we have the LA Rams at 8-5 traveling on over to Jerry World to take on the Dallas Cowboys, who are 6-7. Rams are favored by 1.5. Who do you got?
Rams on the road. They're still in the talk to make the playoffs. I mean, you're talking about potentially 3 teams from the NFC West could make the playoffs. Cowboys are in free fall. I don't know
Please keep falling. Please
I don't
keep
know
falling.
what
Please
could,
keep falling.
I don't know what could stop the bleeding for them right now. A big win at home against a surging Rams team. They've been playing very well defensively ever since the Jalen Ramsey trade, which I think is going to be a key factor. Obviously, for my fantasy team, I'm hoping Dak Prescott has a big day, but I'm going to take the Rams on the road and in taking this win and staying in the hunt.
The Rams, I feel, are way too talented. Like you said, since they've gotten Jalen Ramsey, they are one of the top defenses in the league. The Dallas Cowboys, though, I just hope the bleeding continues. Honestly, let's let them bleed themselves to death because, honestly, they have done nothing to help themselves in any kind of way. Dak is not able to find his receivers. Receivers can't get open. Offensive line can't get the right protection they need to be able to get Ezekiel Elliott free, to be able to keep Dak Prescott upright. It's honestly been very dismal from what they started out at this season when they started, 6-3? Now look at them, 6-7. They look absolutely dismal. The Cowboys are complete trash, and I honestly believe Jason Garrett will be fired at the end of the year. I feel like no matter what happens, because the best you can do is 9-7, and that's not Jerry World football. So at the end of the day, the Cowboys are going to have ousting him at the end of the season. I think the Rams are going to take this behind the resurgent play of not only Jared Goff, but of Todd Gurley as well, which I hope works out for my daily fantasy. And the LA Rams are going to be able to take this one, and they're going to take it and cover. In our late game, our Sunday night game at 8:20, we have the 9-4 Buffalo Bills traveling over to Heinz Field to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 8-5. Steelers are favored by 2. Who do you got?
This was our flex game. They put the Bills in the Sunday night game. They have been they've been playing, trying to keep pace with the Patriots here. Of course,
absolutely.
They're only sitting a game back.
One game
they're
back.
Only one game back.
But,
so this is big.
But don't forget, New England does have the tiebreaker, having won earlier this season.
Right. So they would essentially have to win out, and they have to hope Patriots lose a couple more games so they can take that division. But
so go Bengals
on the road. Yeah, basically go Bengals. If you're the Bills, you're hoping for the Bengals to win here. But
somehow in
this game, both defense have been very stout over this year. I think this is going to be a knockdown, drag out, low scoring game. I'm talking like a 17-13 type game. But because of that, I'm going to take the Steelers to upset and win at home on the back of their surging defense. Josh Allen has been statistically one of the worst quarterbacks this season against the blitz and against pressure. Who blitzes better than anybody else in football right now? The Pittsburgh Steelers. TJ Watt, Micah Fitzpatrick roaming back there at safety. Their pass rush has been really good. And I think that pressure is going to overwhelm Josh Allen and cause him to make enough mistakes to pick the Steelers to win here.
Well, I feel this is honestly going to be a mistake-filled game. This really was one of the toughest games for me to choose this week. I feel both teams are very even on both sides of the ball. Both are having issues at quarterback. Both have decent running backs. James Conner also returning for the Steelers this week. Both have incredible defenses. So it's really hard to pick this game all the way out. I feel this literally will be the war of attrition this week. But I think the Bills will have just enough to be able to pull this off. And it's going to be, I'm saying, like a 17-14, maybe like a 15-16 kind of, like this is going to be an insanely close game. But I think the Bills are going to pull it off and take the win. But in our Monday night game, 8:15 on ESPN, we have the 6-7 Indianapolis Colts traveling on down to the Bayou to take on the New Orleans Saints at 10-3. Saints are favored by 9 and coming off that just heartbreaking defeat to the 49ers. Who do you got?
Saints at home on Monday night in that environment. Colts have been staying in games, but they've been dropping games they shouldn't be dropping to the Buccaneers a couple weeks ago. I think the Saints, they need this game not only for their confidence going into the next few years, but for the next few weeks, that is. But, I mean, you need guys like Alvin Kamara to get going. I think this is a good team for them to do that against. And, I mean, the Saints came off that loss. They're looking to bounce back, and they're looking for somebody to. They're looking around right now. Who's the first person I can beat up? The Colts are right there in front of them.
And the Colts have been a team that, I have been going through growing pains. Obviously, they were going into the season thinking that they were going to have Andrew Luck. Ended up with Jacoby Brissett after Luck decided to retire during the preseason. So a 6-7 record, honestly, is not all that surprising. This is a team that is still growing. T.Y. Hilton is really banged up. Marlon Mack's now out for the year. So a lot of things are going on with this team that kind of put them in this kind of position to where the Saints are going to take full advantage coming off that heartbreaking loss at home. On top of it, they're going to want to defend their home field turf, especially coming into these last couple of weeks. I think the Saints are going to win this one, and I think they're going to win this one huge. I'm talking like maybe almost 20 points huge. So definitely watch out. Definitely going to be an exciting game and exciting weekend of football. So definitely make sure check out all the great games and fly Philly fly. I think we're gonna finally get ourselves a little closer to winning the NFC East somehow. maybe we don't want to give it up. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Either way, though, when we come back, we're going to have a lot of great news with Major League Baseball, including the winter meetings that took place in San Diego and all of the latest signings. But before we get to that, we'll definitely take commercial breaks. So make sure you stay with us. We'll be right back.
The following support and sponsor Podcast City Network. City Limits Tap Room, sports bar in DeLand, Florida, has brew on tap, serve food, the grilled cheese is excellent. For upcoming events, check out City Limits Tap Room on Facebook.com/City Limits Tap Room. Atlantic Sounds has thousands of new and used vinyl records and CDs. If they don't have it, they can order it for you. Same location since 1982. For more updates on what's new, check out Atlantic Sounds on Facebook.com/Atlantic Sounds Vinyl. Sports Sanity Customs have worked with organizations from custom embroidering polo shirts to jerseys for your kids' baseball team. They do it all. Armed with state-of-the-art equipment and an in-house design team, they are equipped to take on your next project. Visit their website to learn more, sportsanitycustoms.com. Visit Sports Sanity Customs on Facebook.com/Sports Sanity Customs. 3Count Design offers a wide range of graphic design products, video, photography and other forms of media. Everything from t-shirt designs to websites. Visit Facebook.com/3Count Design for more. Demo Blast Studios, an explosion of imagination. Original artwork, podcasts, video, apparel and more. Visit demoblaststudios.com. Visit Demo Blast Studios on Facebook.com/Demoblast Studios, the best family entertainment pro wrestling show in the state of Kentucky. Kentucky's Own Wrestling brings quality family vintage wrestling to a town near you. Kentucky's Own Wrestling offers a ladies division in wrestling and a training school. Kentucky's Own Wrestling is the current longest running Southern promotion. Visit Facebook.com/Somerset Kentucky's Own Wrestling. All supporters and sponsors are brought to you by Podcast City Network.
And we are back here on Final Score with Chris and Craig. And we got some great baseball news we're going to talk about now. A lot of off-season updates because we just had the winter meetings in San Diego.
San Diego.
We're not going to say what that means.
But the winter meetings every year are held. They talked about some massive rule changes for Major League Baseball. Actually, the first one that I want to just touch on very quickly is, so MLB draft is a little bit different than all the rest of the drafts because it's not, you talk about drafts, you think of the NBA draft, that's a big event.
Huge.
NFL draft, huge event.
The biggest.
Now they're taking it around the country. MLB draft and NHL draft are really lagging behind in that area.
So is the WWE. Oh, wait, sorry. Never mind.
MLB draft never even had a draft on TV that was televised up until a few years ago. And they used to do it at the MLB network in Secaucus, New Jersey. Now they're going to be moving it to Omaha, Nebraska. And you're wondering, why Omaha, Nebraska? What's good about that? College World Series is in Omaha, Nebraska. And the MLB draft happens the same time as the College World Series. So the best way to allow all the top college players to come in and attend the draft, move the draft to Omaha, Nebraska.
Makes sense, honestly.
It's great. I think it's a great move. It's a great move.
Yeah, absolutely great move. And honestly, I think it'll help them get a lot more exposure, not only for the prospects, but for the draft itself, especially because Omaha is such a staple when it comes to the College World Series and college baseball as a whole. So to come to the mecca of college baseball with the draft, to be able to bring the transitional event to the major leagues, it just makes sense.
And they can make it more of an event, much like NBA and NFL.
Absolutely. Now, there's also a couple other rule changes and stuff that were changed. One that I felt was going to eventually happen anyway, expanded netting at all major league ballparks. Obviously, we saw earlier in the season the very tragic event that took place where a little girl was beamed in the face with a foul ball, ended up having all kinds of medical issues after that. Really helped with them making that decision to extend the netting because it also wasn't the first time we've seen something like that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a step that we figured was coming, and it just makes sense that all teams are now going to be doing it. So a few teams were proactive about it and did it mid-season already.
Right.
But now it's going to be at all ballparks, which it makes sense. Yes, it kind of takes away from the experience, but I mean, you got to think about how fast these baseballs are flying into the stands on foul balls and just line drives, and those things hurt, man.
Yeah, they definitely do. They definitely do. They also expanded the minimum stay on the injured list from 10 days to 15, trying to make sure that players are getting the time to be able to get healed up, get rested up the way they need to before they make their return to the lineups.
Not even that. There's been teams that have been taking advantage of the system doing this. The Dodgers have been a big one.
Yeah.
And that's actually, they are probably the reason why this rule is now in place. It's a way that, like you said, they can get the rest that they need for those players, but it's more so that teams can't jerk the system around and use it to their advantage.
Absolutely. They also are going to be expanding active rosters from 25 to 26 players, something a lot of teams are trying to do to try and help with mainly with pitching, making sure we're getting enough rest for pitchers, especially if you're throwing 80, 90, 100 pitches a game. That can definitely take an impact on a pitcher. Yeah,
especially because of the fact that now also kind of coupled with that, the new rule where now relief pitchers are required to face at least 3 batters or finish the half inning before they can be pulled. Usually in baseball, you see guys come out for individual batters because of matchups and statistics, and all that, all the analytics involved. But I think this rule is actually the worst of all of them.
Yes.
They think it's going to speed up the game when realistically, I was watching the MLB Network within the last couple of days, the winter meetings, and they talked about the statistics behind how much time does it take to do a pitching change versus a pitch, like an inning or a pitcher facing 3 batters. They're virtually the same. They're saying that it's cutting down a couple of seconds here, which for a fan, we're not going to notice that too much.
No, not at all. It's going to be a blip.
Realistically, you're tying the manager's arms behind their back. You're handcuffing them to making decisions that are, I think, going to inevitably hurt the game a little bit. But again, not enough that it's really going to hurt the fans' experience.
Right.
So from an operational standpoint, from baseball, this is a bad decision. But from a fan standpoint, we're not really going to be able to see the difference.
Yeah, it's going to be a blip on the radar, not something we're ever really going to see. So we'll definitely see how that plays out going into the season. But we had some other big news happen so far in these past couple of weeks, and that's been some major signings. As you see on your on the screen now, notable player movements through December 13th. So this is current as of yesterday. As you see, we've had a lot of really huge signings. The top 3 being Steven Strasburg going back to the Nationals on a 7-year, $245 million deal. I can't English today.
Dollar deal is what you're trying to say.
I'm mixing words.
Dollar deal. That's what you're trying to say.
Good to the top. Anthony Rendon, 7-year, $245 million deal to go to the Angels. But the biggest so far has been with the New York Yankees, making a 9-year, $324 million deal with Garrett Cole. And interesting fact, their agent, by the one name, was it Scott Boras? Scott Boras has now negotiated $814 million in contracts over a 3-day period.
And he's got other representative players that also will be signing contracts over the next couple weeks. So there's a possibility he could be negotiating over $1 billion in contracts already in the free agency period.
Man, I wish I would have played baseball.
I wish I was good at baseball.
I wish I was too.
Yeah, I wish I was
good at sports. I am good at sports.
I'd be the next Altuve. I'd be the next Jose Altuve.
Oh my goodness, looks like I carried away now. All right, but looking at some of these other
we're the same height. We're the same height.
Kill me.
Garrett Cole is the biggest dollar amount contract, of course, right after Steven Strasburg signed his. Of these signings that you have on here, which one do you think is the biggest impact? Is it Garrett Cole?
Honestly, I think it will be Garrett Cole. Having Washington getting Steven Strasburg back obviously is a really big deal, but Garrett Cole is going to bring a whole new set of life into the New York Yankees, who did deal a lot of injuries and did jettison some players going into last season, and were able to pull out a 103-win season, especially after having Judge on the roster and bringing in Stanton, all these kinds of players. But now you have Garrett Cole, and now I feel you've really rounded out your bullpen. That the Yankees, dare I say it, I hate to say it as a Red Sox fan, might be able to duplicate or even improve upon the mark they had last season.
I think the biggest deal, the pitchers obviously are important. I like the Anthony Rendon to the Angels. Reason being, I think it was a 7-year, $245 million deal. But here's the big thing now. Now you have Anthony Rendon, who has been in talks for MVP the last couple of years, he's essentially the savior of the Nationals this year for the World Series. You are pairing him with one of the best players in baseball right now, with the most decorated generational talent we've ever seen in baseball in Mike Trout. They are literally now 3 and 4 in the batting lineup.
Yeah, that's going to be disgusting.
That right there, I think, is already big, because now all the arguments been, I've said it myself, the Angels literally have nothing to show for. You're wasting Mike Trout's prime years already by having no help for him, no pitching. You're not making the playoffs. This move right here, along with some other pitching moves they're talking about making, that right there, Angels are already, with Anthony Rendon added into that lineup, already a borderline wildcard team.
Yeah, I think that if they make a few more moves, this is a team that might actually make some noise if it were to get into the playoffs. So definitely make sure to watch out for that. It's definitely some great signings that we've had. Any other notable ones on here you wanted to mention? 2 others. Didi Gregorius, who was with the Yankees, signs a 1-year deal with the Phillies, which is very big for the Phillies. Huge.
Because of all their expectations last year with getting Bryce Harper. And Rick Porcello, pitcher, signs a 1-year, $10 million deal with the Mets, which they actually went out and got Mike Wacha too, which is another youngish pitcher in his prime. So the Mets are making a lot of deals, but the reason they're making these deals, there's a possibility of some rumblings they might be moving one of their big pitchers to try to make some moves to go get some other players. So that, watch out for that if you're paying close attention to baseball right now.
Yeah, definitely.
But those are a couple other big ones. Of course, we have some on the graphic if you're watching us on YouTube or watching us live. Those are the big ones that we've seen.
Oh, yes.
Of course, the Rays traded Tommy Pham to the Padres for Hunter Renfroe, which is kind of like a lateral move a little bit.
I feel it's an even move by both teams.
But yeah, those are the only other big ones that are worth noting.
Yeah, so definitely make sure that you keep up to date with all things Final Score on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at PCN Final Score. That way, when these announcements come through, you can definitely see what we end up posting, because we're not gonna miss out on this stuff. It's always crazy. But moving on to a little bit of hockey, been a lot of excitement going on, including our 3 stars of the week.
Yeah, NHL.com's 3 stars of the week, released every Monday. So the first star goes to John Carlson, defenseman for Washington Capitals. In 3 games in the previous week, he scored 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 total points. Oh, and yeah, 2 game-winning goals.
That's absolutely
for the Capitals, who have been absolutely on fire. They've been killing it lately. But he is the first star of the week.
Yeah, our second star goes to Tristan Jarry, the goalie for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He is currently on 2-0-0, but he stopped all 61 shots in the 2 games he has won, being lights out protecting that net.
Absolutely. Third star goes to Jack Eichel, center for the Buffalo Sabres. In 4 games last week, he had 2 goals, 5 assists, and 7 points.
Absolutely crazy.
Monster week for him.
Absolute monster week. And that is our NHL.com 3 stars of the week. And they've been playing absolutely out of their mind. A lot of these teams, it's been a crazy season.
Absolutely. Some other big news in the NHL. San Jose Sharks defenseman Marc-Edouard Vlasic will become tonight the 17th defenseman in NHL history to play 1,000 games for one team when they host the Canucks tonight.
That's absolutely crazy. Vlasic is in the top 10 in Sharks history in regular season games. He's 3rd with 999. He's also 6th in assists with 248 and 8th in points with 320. Also 7th in shots on goal with 1399. And let's not forget the Stanley Cup playoff games he's been in, 142, and playoff rating plus 20. Guy's outstanding. He's honestly a staple of the San Jose Sharks. So hats off to him now. Yeah, he'll have this next record of being the 17th defenseman to play 1,000 games for one team.
Absolutely. And he's actually currently on a 16-point or 15-point game streak. And if he gets 16, that would be the longest in the NHL this season. So
absolutely crazy.
Fun little fact about that.
Yeah. Oh, man, look at you. You're like ESPN almost, like finding all these fun
Almost.
facts.
I've got all this weird, stupid knowledge, and it's just like...
Hey, it is not stupid, sir. Do not put yourself down.
Right. And then just another big one. The Avalanche have been hot. They've been 8-1 in their last 10. They've been really streaking very well. But if you're a hockey fan, it's been a great season so far, and looking forward to the next week.
But you know what else has been really exciting? NBA basketball. And we have our NBA.com players of the week. And these were announced on Monday, December 9th. Who do we have in the East?
In the East, Jimmy Butler from Miami Heat.
Playing great.
He is. They had a big night last night against the Lakers. They ended up losing that game, but it was a tough game. In the last week, Jimmy Butler and the Heat went 3-1. He was averaging 27.5 points a game, 9 rebounds a game, 8.5 assists a game, and just over a steal a game. They went 3-1 last week. He had 2 triple doubles. He had one in a win over the Raptors, 121-110, and another one in a win over the Wizards, 112-103.
Absolutely playing out of his mind. In the in the West, none other than Anthony Davis of the LA Lakers, playing out of his mind, averaging over the past week 35 points a game, 8 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and 2 blocks, while going 4-0 during that time span, with wins over the Nuggets, the Jazz, the Blazers, and the Timberwolves. And with the Timberwolves, he dropped 50 points on him. Absolutely amazing.
And all those games were on the road, if I'm
yes, that was part of their
correctly.
road trip. Yeah,
part of their big road trip, and they have been probably the best team in the NBA, the LA Lakers.
Oh, yeah.
But not far behind them has been the Rockets. I mean, and James Harden is just he's on a tear right now. He's in another stratosphere compared to other NBA players.
Sorry, I'm hiding. The Magic lost last night to the Rockets.
Right. But I mean, what do you expect when you got a team like the Rockets that comes in, and Harden's been on a tear. He, after last night, now has back-to-back 50-point games, became the first player in league history to record back-to-back 50-point games, along with scoring 10 3-pointers in each of those games.
And it had to be done against the Magic.
Hey, it's got to be done against somebody.
This is supposed to be a good year for us. You know what? Voos is
That's
still
what
out.
you said. That's what you said.
Hey.
You're expecting them to win the division.
I mean, I might have had a little
I'm expecting
bias.
them to get 8 seed in the playoffs, which they still can do.
I'm thinking with this, sir. It's all here.
Yeah, that's what
you need for
that's what
sports.
fails you.
But, still, it is an amazing mark. And on the season, he's leading the NBA in points per game, currently a little over 39 points a game. Also, field goal attempts, which he's almost pushing 25, and 3-point attempts, which is 14. And let's not forget his free throws, made and attempted 12 and almost 14 apiece, because I know that 24 for 24 game definitely helped with that, but guy's been on fire this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And his field goal attempts and his 3-point attempts are vastly head and shoulders above everybody else.
Absolutely.
But with his last game last night, scoring over 50, he had now set the record for most points through the first 25 games of a season, beating Michael Jordan. He's got 982.
How do you beat out Michael Jordan? He's Michael Jordan. His airness. Well,
And if I'm not mistaken, that was the year, I want to say that was the 87, 88 maybe.
Yeah, late 80s
when he
season.
was averaging in the mid 30s every game.
God, those were good times. Good times. But there's something else about good times that we have to touch on in this week's sports history, because we got some good ones. And honestly, some of it actually ties back to some of the things we've been talking about today. It's been pretty exciting. But to start off with, I'm going to let you go ahead and take it, sir.
All right. On this date, December 14th in 1968, hockey legend Bobby Orr scores his first ever hat trick in the Boston Bruins' 10-5 win over the Chicago Blackhawks at the Boston Garden.
Ooh, exciting. December 14th, 1919. It took 100 years for us to advance to the next phase of this. Major League Baseball agreed on use of a standard ball, but disagreed on increasing rosters from 23 to 25 players, although the commissioner, Judge Landis, eventually decided on 25 anyways, and it took 100 years for us to decide to add one more player.
To add one more player. When I first saw that, I thought you meant today because it's a 12, 14, 19.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that it was today.
Yeah, I had to put it in there
that's-
just so I
that's
remembered.
weird. On this date, again, December 14th in 1947, the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, which is a mouthful, also known as NASCAR, is founded in nearby Daytona Beach, Florida.
Yes, which they have the main office that sits right there across from Daytona International Speedway, a very large complex.
Yeah.
But shiny and gaudy nonetheless. December 17th, 2014, 103-year-old Gus Andrion records the 8th ace of his career on the 113-yard 14th hole of the Lakes course in Palm Air, Sarasota, Florida, and is the oldest golfer to record a hole-in-one.
And he was probably the youngest guy in his group. In December 19th, 2010, the miracle at the Meadowlands. The Philadelphia Eagles trail the New York Giants by 21 points with 8 minutes to play before scoring 4 touchdowns in 7 minutes, including a dramatic walk-off punt return for a touchdown by Deshaun Jackson.
Fly, Eagles, fly. Flapping hard. Sorry.
You might fly away. We got to watch out.
Oh, no, I'm getting a little tired now. But that is This Week in Sports History. Now we're going to move on to our good old Give or Go.
I'm going to toss the first one up to you. Give or Go. The NFL is investigating the Patriots for video crew at the Bengals game against the Browns. Give or Go.
I'm going to give on this, but only for a little bit, because this is yet another scandal for the Patriots to say, hey, look, this is something we didn't do. Oops. And that's usually how all these end. Now, the Patriots as a whole has taken ownership of this, being that the video crew was from the production side of the New England Patriots franchise. However, this is not a video crew that had anything to do, apparently, with the football operations side, with the team, Bill Belichick, and all of the coaching staff. So not really sure why they were there to begin with. The reason that they are getting kind of smacked is because they didn't follow proper protocols when it came to reporting to both the Browns and the NFL that this was going to be going on. The Bengals apparently did actually know about it, but they are really calling into question an 8-minute video portion that was taken solely of the Bengals sideline during their matchup with the Browns. Honestly, I don't think this is going to be as big of an issue that it's blown out to be. You know, this isn't a Videogate like they had way back when they had the issue with the Jets. I think this is going to be something that's going to be a lot more under the rug, and you're talking about the 1-11 Bengals or 1-12, wherever they are now. The 1-win Bengals. Who really cares?
Yeah, when I first heard about this, it was kind of surprising because I know a lot of teams, they share tape with other teams, and you've got, I'm pretty sure that most teams have either somebody there representing their team recording the game for game film purposes, or they probably, like I said, swap with other teams. So that's kind of weird that it's not affiliated with the operations, which makes me really wonder, why were they there? What were they doing?
I mean, who is your daddy and what does he do? I mean, you're asking the same kind of question. So, you know, I don't know. We'll see how it all works out. But the Denver Broncos head coach, Vic Fangio, proposes that a new playoff format be introduced for the NFL. Give or go. I
think this is a great idea. I want to give, just for Tad, just to give you an idea of what the context of this all is. Of course, talking about the NFC least right now,
actually fits pretty well.
Yeah, having 2 6 and 7 teams leading the division, and unfortunately, we're going to have potentially a losing team hosting a playoff game, which is crazy in my opinion.
But we could get to 9 and 7.
They're asking Vic Fangio about what ways that they could change the playoff format. And he had an idea that he said it's been an ideal suggestion, but he's never put it in front of anyone that makes decisions, which is kind of funny. But he got 16 teams in each conference. Everybody plays each other once. That's 15 games. If you want a 16th game, you play a natural rival from the other conference. You know, Giants and Jets play every year. Eagles, Steelers, Texans, Cowboys, etc. play every year and keep it at 16 games, end quote. I think that'd be a great idea, but reseed the playoffs to be the top 6 teams of both sides. It maybe not do all this kind of stuff, but I think reformatting it to be like how the NBA should do it, regardless of conference, do it, just reseed everybody. But division winners should not be necessarily just handed a home playoff game.
I think the only reason they are now is just because since you play everybody in your division twice a year, that it takes up a majority of your planning.
Right.
That's 6 of your 10 or 6 of your 16 games that you're playing every single season. So
I'm fine with keeping that.
Yeah.
But reseed them all 1 through 6, so that way a 7 and 9 team doesn't host playoff games, which has happened in the past. Or potentially this year you've got an 8 and 8 team or a 7 and 9 team or a 6 and 10 team.
Hey, they're going to be 9 and 7, sir. Thank you.
But I like the idea of proposing a new playoff format for the NFL. I think it should never be something that's just tossed to the side because this is the way we always do it. Right. It's a bad way of thinking.
That is a bad way of thinking. It would be very interesting if they were to take on that type of approach, especially if they do plan on expanding the schedules to 17 games. So I don't know. We'll definitely see how a lot of that ends up working out.
Yep. Next one I'm tossing up to you. The Rockets protest is denied. Of course, we're talking about the basket, no basket by James Harden a few weeks ago. And 3 officials were disciplined from that game. Give or go.
I'm going to go on this, honestly, because I think it was kind of ridiculous that the Rockets protested it to begin with. I do see their point of view with the fact that if they would have made that basket, technically they would have won the game and would never have even had to have had overtime. However, at the end of the day, no one's going to replay the last 7.5 minutes of a game. It's one thing if it's a minute or less, but you're talking about most of a quarter. So at the end of the day, I knew this was not going to go through, and at least the NBA did take the right steps with actually disciplining the officials, knowing that it was still a blown call. But yeah, no way you go back and replay the game. Ridiculous. All right, the NBA is going to add a G League team in Mexico City starting in 2020. Give or go.
This is a big one. I think this is a big deal. What they're talking about is the NBA is always trying to branch out and play in other countries. They played in China. They play in Europe. They've recently just got done with a Mexico City trip.
How'd that China trip go?
Yeah, that's a different story altogether for another show. But they just wrapped up with their Mexico City trip right now. And the Capitans, a Mexico City-based team from the top Mexican Professional Basketball League, and I'm going to butcher this. I apologize so much. The Liga Nacional de Baloncesto Profesional. It's the top. Yeah.
You having issues there? Nacional de Baloncesto Profesional.
See, you just screwed it up worse than I did.
No, that's exactly how you say it.
But so they're the top team from the top league in Mexico, and they will be officially joining the G League during next season, the 2020-2021 season. It was announced on Thursday. The Capitans will play in the G League for an initial term of 5 years. This is only going to help the NBA do what they've been wanting to do for the last 15 years. Started with Dave and Stern, continues now with Adam Silver. Just growing the global brand of the NBA. This is a great move.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a wonderful move, and now you're moving more into an international arena, but doing it in a more official basis. This isn't just like having an international tournament of some kind or doing whatever. This is now going to be ingrained as part of your farm league for what is the basis of the NBA. So I think this is a wonderful, wonderful move. Hats off to the NBA for finally doing this.
Yeah, it's the best thing they can do. Otherwise, going overseas to Europe or China, and obviously that's not going to work travel-wise. NFL clearly hasn't figured that out yet.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great move.
Yeah, absolutely.
The next one I'm going to toss up to you. Louisville college basketball is the latest number 1 team in college basketball to go down. Give or go.
I'm going to give on this very slightly. I find it so funny that all these media pundits think they know who the best team is. We're going to rank these teams how we see fit. Guess what? How many number 1 teams have fallen this year?
They're the 4th.
Exactly. That's the 4th team to fall, and we're only a few weeks into the season.
We're like a month and a half in.
Exactly, 4 or 5 weeks. At the end of the day, it's absolutely disgusting to try and think that any of us really know. Yeah, who cares?
I know. Sorry, I'm just thinking.
You know what I'm saying.
I'm thinking out loud. I'm sorry. I do that a lot.
But looking at Louisville, they lost to unranked Texas Tech 70-57 on Tuesday night in the Jimmy V Classic at Madison Square Garden. That's a 13-point loss for the number 1 team, and the Cardinals become that 4th number 1 team to lose this season. Who else has lost? Michigan State, Kentucky
in the opening night,
and Duke. Yeah, Michigan State lost in opening night
to Kentucky, who then
lost.
Kentucky lost on their home floor to like a very small squad. I want to say it's like Elon or something.
No, SF Austin. I thought.
No, SF Austin beat Duke.
That was who beat Duke. Oh my gosh! Now I almost said Crichton. No, I can't remember who beat Kentucky. This is how crazy this season has been. Absolutely insane. So for this, we now have had 4 number 1 teams go down. Honestly, I don't think it's going to stop. I think we're going to see more.
This is the one thing I like about college basketball this year is there's so much parity. There's literally so much parity. It's not like last year where everybody was on the Zion hype train and they thought Zion was going to win the national championship all on his own for whatever reason why. But this year you've actually, I think, is what you're going to see as a trend more, especially as NBA gets rid of their one and done rule.
Evansville. There we go. Oh my gosh. That was going to bother me so bad.
I knew it was started with an E. I said Elon.
Yeah, you were close.
I was close.
You were close.
Kind of. A little bit. But yeah, college basketball is going to be so much fun to watch this year. So much parity. Big Ten, best conference in basketball. I'm sorry. There's no argument there. Yeah. Come at me, bro. It's not going to happen.
Sadly, I have to agree with you, but at the end of the day, it's been absolutely dismal. So we'll definitely see how a lot of other teams end up playing out the season and see if anybody else is actually able to hold on to the number one spot. NCAA, though, is seeking federal assistance from Congress on the name, image, and likeness rules, a fair pay to play, if you will. Give or go.
We talked about this at length for like 30 minutes yesterday. So
yeah, we could have been doing work, sir.
Yeah. I mean, we were working. We were on break. We were on break.
We were.
But so what happens is, to give you some context, we've heard all about the Fair Pay to Play Act.
Yes.
There's a bunch of states that are trying to jump on board and do this. State of California and Ohio being two of the front runners here. Mm-hmm. But the NCAA is kind of been backed into a corner. So what they're doing is they're reaching out to the House of Representatives and the Senate to discuss a federal legislation on name, image, and likeness. So what they're doing is they're kind of pivoting a little bit to try to, not necessarily save face, but what they're trying to do is they're trying, now that they've been behind the ball, they're trying to catch up and get in front of the ball so that way they can curve this to their liking. I guarantee you that's what's going to happen. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts officially on this.
Now, with this, we already know that there's a lot of legislation going through state senates right now, going through state judiciary house committees that are trying to come up with realistic ways to improve this exact issue for all their universities. Obviously, we've seen the bill, the Fair Pay to Play Act, go through California. Now, a lot of states are starting to follow suit. I think we're upwards of almost 20 states now that have some
20 now, officially.
Yeah, 20 states that have either introduced or are going to be adopting some type of Fair Pay to Play Act into their actual state legislation. However, we know that Congress is eventually going to have to take a stand with this. NCAA has now been backpedaling ever since the very first one with California passed, and have been backpedaling ever since. So the thing I see with this is that there are states already, I should say state representatives, that are already introducing legislation to Congress, to the House Senate Committee, to try and put forth legislation that's going to be on the level of the Fair Pay to Play Act. What this does, though, is I think what you said is exactly right. They're trying to find a way to take this and curtail it to what's going to work for the NCAA. However, while Congress might be able to help them try and come up with some type of legislation, I still feel that they're not going to be able to get to the level of what they feel is going to be comfortable for the NCAA. Because obviously, if Congress has any kind of sense, they're going to look at the situation and understand that the NCAA is automatically, because they're going to want to try and protect their own interest and money, are going to try and mold this into something that's going to be more likable for the NCAA rather than something that's actually going to be beneficial for the universities and for the student athletes. So what I see that's going to end up happening is that Congress will help, but it's only going to be to a certain extent. And if there's better legislation that's going to offer better protections and honestly a better platform for the athletes and universities to be heard, I think they're going to go that route.
Well, the thing is the NCAA has always fought federal intervention and they've always tried to fight that kind of stuff. But now, Mark Emmert, who somehow still has a job as being top of the NCAA, 3 months ago, told a group of athletic directors that this issue was the, quote, single biggest issue he's ever faced in his decade on the job. But the one thing, and why I agree with you that a state like Ohio and how aggressive their name, image, and likeness bill is for student athletes, obviously that's only going to get you so far, because what happens with a bill is it goes through, it gets shot down, recycled, watered down, goes through again.
How a bill becomes a law.
Yeah. I mean, if you've ever done that, watch what's that? School of Rock?
School of Rock.
School of Rock.
We just took it back.
Yeah, we just took it back. Talking about kids, if you've never seen that, Google it. School of Rock, how a bill becomes a law. It's funny, but it's also like super outdated. So anyway, but I think this is part of the reason why, I think this is the main reason why they're going to have to meet in the middle, but it's going to end up catering to what the NCAA wants to an extent. Money talks. How much money? Now, all these bills that are out have some powerful people behind them, whether it's in legislature, athletes themselves, pro athletes, whatever. But the amount of money that the NCAA has that they can pay for lobbyists and pay for money in lawyers and all this kind of stuff, eventually they're going to win out, but they are going to lose in the long run because obviously they're not catering to what they should be doing They're just trying to, like you said, save their own interests, save their own money. They're, it's these old hats that are trying to hold on to what they
very true
can't hold on to anymore. And it's going to end up getting super watered down, but I think there will end up being, when it's all said and done, a federal pay-to-play act, but I think it's going to be a joke compared to what it should be.
Yeah, I think it's going to end up being something that's going to get tied up in a lot of legislation for years to come, because you'll see, I think, multiple phases of this happen over the next 10 to 20 years to where this is going to end up being attempted to be approved upon, whether literally or in the name of. Either way, it really just depends upon how Congress leans, because you are right, money will talk, and not trying to downplay the fact that money won't have some type of impact on this, but I feel there are certain politicians who, and even pro athletes who do have that power to influence, are getting so fed up with the system at this point that you can't ignore what the NCAA is trying to do. You're running a multi-billion-dollar industry that doesn't help the actual people that's making this money for you, and that's what I think is seeing. Universities make a stupid amount of money, whether it be through TV deals, bowl affiliations, conference affiliations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you're not helping the student athletes outside of saying you get your tuition paid for. That's chump change. We're talking less than 1% than what they are making, that you could pay for the entire scholarship for an entire football team without issue and still make millions of dollars. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people are starting to see now, and why is this becoming a more pressing issue. Obviously, though, it's going to take some time, and maybe we'll see something introduced going into 2020, but I have to agree that we may not get exactly what we want, but I don't think it's going to be as in the NCAA's favor as some people think.
It's funny because this whole thing comes about because you're taking this stuff to court and through legislation, but in reality, NCAA doesn't need Congress to do this at all. They could literally hold an emergency meeting and they could decide to do some stuff themselves. But like you said, like we've been saying the last few minutes, they just want to hold on very dearly to their money, and they don't want to give it up.
That's what it all comes down to, is money, sadly. But we'll definitely see how a lot of this plays out, and definitely going to report about it a lot more over the next year as we get closer and closer to the decision time, especially with next year being an election year. I'm sure we're going to have a lot more news about this going forward. But to make sure that you hear about that news, you need to make sure that you follow us on all of our social media outlets, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, at PCN Final Score. Just make sure you give us a like, give us a follow. More importantly, give us a rating. Let us know how we're doing. Give us that 5-star if you really like us. But if you don't like it, let us know. That way we can try and improve the show the best we can, because at the end of the day, we do this for you guys, the fans. Also, to make sure you keep up with all of our great episodes and content that we put out, you have to follow our myriad of different content platforms. And you don't have to do all of them, but hey, go to your favorite one. Make sure that you're following Final Score, whether it be on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, Stitcher, TuneIn, or Google Play Music. Go on there, give us a like, give us a follow. All you have to do is you just have to go on and search keyword Final Score, one word, and you'll find us there right down here below. Check us out. We definitely love your guys' support. And now we hit that sad time of the week ahead.
Talking about the week ahead, first in the NBA, obviously today we've got Miami Heat on the road, Dallas Mavericks. Heat are 18-7, coming off that loss last night. Dallas 17-7, playing surprisingly very, very well. Milwaukee's in action tonight at home against the struggling Cavaliers. Toronto's at home against Brooklyn. And who else is in action? Clippers at Chicago. Denver at home against OKC. And the Rockets at home against Detroit.
Yeah, definitely a lot of exciting stuff there, as well as a lot of great action. Isn't there a UFC fight coming up? I think it's tonight.
UFC 245 is tonight in Las Vegas, Nevada. 3 world titles are on the line. A huge way to end out the year for UFC fans. Welterweight champ Kamaru Usman is 15-1, making his first title defense against second-ranked challenger Colby Covington, who's 14-1.
Absolutely insane. And don't forget, you also have the featherweight championship fight between Max Holloway, who's 21-4, as he returns to action to battle top contender Alexander, and I know I'm probably going to totally butcher this, Volkanovski. Actually, that probably is right.
That sounds pretty good.
Alexander Volkanovski, who is also 20-1. Definitely going to be a great fight for the featherweight championship.
And on the women's side, the 2-division champ Amanda Nunes. You probably remember her. She's the one that took down Cyborg and Ronda Rousey. 18-4, puts her featherweight title on the line against Jermaine D. Randomie.
That sounds good. Randomie, maybe?
She's 9-3. Yeah, she's 9-3, but it's going to be that featherweight title on the line in the women's side. I mean, this fight, if you are a mixed martial arts fighter, there's also a pretty stacked card, but it's obviously headlined by 3 world titles on the line.
There's also 2 really great college basketball games tonight. A lot of people aren't talking about. Memphis at Tennessee, 13 versus 19, 8-1 versus 7-1. Tennessee favored by 6.5. Definitely looks to be a really great matchup. And then, of course, our late night game tonight, 10 p.m. Number 6 Gonzaga traveling out to Arizona, take on the number 15 Wildcats. Both teams 10-1. Arizona favored by 2. So definitely some interesting games tonight.
Number 5 Michigan in action right now at home against number 10
and
Oregon.
Losing.
Down 31-23 at half. Big.
Sorry, I didn't mean to say that so loud.
Big games for them. Michigan's coming off a horrible loss on the road at Illinois. Illinois has been a really pesky team, though. They took. They beat Michigan. They took Maryland to the wire. They had that game won, but they were winning by 15 points and soiled that lead away. They've been a really tough team in the Big Ten. That's going to be a tough conference.
Yeah, most definitely. So it's definitely going to be very interesting. But make sure that you follow Final Score and join us next week for episode 41 of Final Scores. We're going to give you an update on all this great action. But sadly, it has come to that time.
I forgot. President's Cup's going on too right now for golf.
Oh, yeah. You can't forget the President's Cup.
Yeah, President's Cup's going on right now.
But again, join us next week, episode 41. Again, follow us on all social media at PCN Final Score on all of our myriad of platforms. But sadly, it's the end of our show. I am Chris. That guy's Craig, even though I don't know about that hat. I don't know. Either way.
Says the guy with the smudge on his shirt.
I don't know what you're talking about, sir. That's a shiny spot. I don't know what that means. Either way, though, I think we're just prolonging the inevitable. So definitely make sure you join us next week. But until then, you have just watched Final Score. Have a great day.
Podcast City Network.